Welcome to this video where we're going to look into how to work with Claude. If you're a total beginner for Claude code, this is the video for you because we're going to take a look at what you could do to build, software and code with Claude. To help us learn that, I have with me Rajat, who's an AI engineer. Rajat has worked with different startups. Some of them have gone on to raise many $1 million. I think what we're going to learn here is, we're going to take a look at how we could use Claude code and what can we do as a beginner to get started. Particularly, we're going to take a look at one project that we'll be building. This project will have one major key component. It's going to be a AI researcher that also does fact checking. Now, I'll lead this, conversation asking naive questions and, questions that are boring but worthwhile to understand if you're a beginner. I'll have Rajat with me who's going to explain the fundamentals of what's going on. Rajat, do you want to first introduce yourself and then maybe talk a little bit more about what we're going to be building, particularly what we're going to be doing with Claude Code, as well as what AI agentic framework we'll be using to build whatever we just discussed?
Yeah, and thank you, Rafit, for having me. Hi, guys. I'm Rajat. As Rafit introduced, I'm an AI engineer. Uh, I kind of dabble with different AI agentic frameworks and different AI IDEs, Cursor, Claude Code, even Google's anti-gravity. So, although I would profess that I'm not an expert, but I do have some experience, working extensively with Claude Code and Cursor and so on and so forth. As per what we'll be building, we're going to be building a AI agent that will effectively write really good blocks while also doing fact checking on each of the components, individual components that's been created by AI agents. And we're going to extensively understand different workings of Claude Code, how what's an agent, what are skills, what are plugins, and how you can connect MCPs to Claude Code, and how you could leverage multiple agents to kind of reduce your context switching and get things done pretty fast and 10x your productivity.
Yeah, so this video in particular does not at this point take a look at the skills or other aspects. Some of the aspects that Rajat was addressing is going to be a subsequent video where we're going to take a look at skills and hooks and other aspects of Claude Code. The bottom line here is by the end of this video, what you can get really is you can get started with Claude Code. You can be confident about some of more experienced users workflow, and you'll be able to navigate this Claude Code interface in such a way that you are able to gather, produce stuff, and be productive immediately. And Rajat, do you want to just quickly explain how long you've been using Claude Code and for what projects? Perhaps you may want to describe whatever you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Well, I've been using Cursor obviously a little over a year and a half now, but particularly Claude Code, somewhere between 6 to 7 months easily, even more, but I would say 6 to 7 months. Um, and when I worked at different startups, as actually kind of told, there extensively, uh, we were all the team were using Cursor, and then we switched over to Cloud Code because it was very easy to understand, and it was the agentic workflow compared to Cursor was easier in the Cloud Code, and not to mention all the quirky details and easy things that Cloud Code does for us developers to make our lives easier. And as far as what I'm building this thing called Parallel Universe, where it's a software or an application that can help you if you're active on Twitter to 10x your Twitter game and take your engagement rate from, let's say, if you're 100 to 200, 300 uh, in a very short amount of time. Obviously, leveraging AI for that. And even there, the entirety of the project was built around Cloud Code. So yeah, I mean that's why uh, I've dabbled and gained a lot of experience And I'm hoping to learn more. You can never
Yeah.
learn.
So you've
You
done
never learn everything.
yeah, you've done a little bit of work around LangGraph and LangChain. Do you want to talk about your extensive interest and perhaps your inclination towards being a fan of such frameworks? Because I understand you like LangGraph, LangChain and the likes of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah, yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
talk about what we're going to be looking at in today's video about as well?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a bit of controversy, right? Like a lot of people like a lot of different frameworks. Some like Crew AI, some like the OpenAI's Agent SDK, so on and so forth. But with me, at least, I started off my journey with LangChain and LangGraph, and that has been stuck ever since. You could call me as a sticky user of this framework, not because I'm not dabbled or I'm not try different frameworks, but because when you think in terms of production ready softwares or production ready applications, right? So LangGraph and LangChain allows you to build products focused around that. And I'm not saying others don't let you build, don't get me wrong, but specifically LangChain, LangGraph has extensive community support and their documentation is so good. In fact, they have their own MCP servers for documentation that how we're going to be leveraging so that your context switching becomes very minimal. Yeah, so I've always built complex applications in both of my startups and did not find a reason to switch over to anything else. Although I would say with an asterisk that you know, with a strong competitor being to LangGraph is Agno, which is a recent framework that has come around, and their ecosystem is pretty good as well. It's called Agno SDK, Asian SDK. You guys can look it up, and I like that particularly because of its ease of building out an MVP compared to LangChain or LangGraph. Both of them are good, but Agno is just takes it a bit further in terms of building your MVP quickly, and they also give you out of the box UI for experimenting the agents that you build.
Sounds good.
Even LangGraph, yeah, LangGraph and LangChain does that, but it's pretty quick and as less as 10 to 15 lines, you can get started with a basic research agent, right? But
Cool.
I stuck to LangGraph, and it kind of helps you think with agentic principles and how you can lay out your graphs and everything. So that's why I like it. It's software engineering as well. It's got everything packed in it. So
Great. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, let's take it away. Do you want to get started?
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
R code by Anthropic. You could
And
just go ahead
sorry,
and install it
so
in.
actually, let me ask you a question. And excuse my naivety because you will see a lot of naive questions
Oh,
because
feel
I got
free.
to catch up on this. So why can't I not just simply use Cursor? Why do I need Claude Code?
Yeah, I mean, again, it again comes to the question of why can I not use React over Angular, right? Or why can I not use, different frameworks do different things. The reason, in a nutshell, is Cursor is good, but it's not as good as Claude Code. And I'm telling this with experience. Maybe the reason I say that is because one of the major things is, let's say when it is making a tool call, right? So what happens in Cursor? It'll make a tool call. The agent is awaiting for the user to respond. And let's say I don't respond for I just walk out, right? I got something that came up and I just walk out. And the cursor, what happens, it's awaiting the user to give a response. Hey, you want to accept, reject, or modify the tool call. And if after 5 minutes, if it doesn't get a response, it times out and it's not, sorry, what happened?
Sorry, I just changed the screen here.
Okay, okay,
It's me.
okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Got you,
yeah.
got you.
It's
All
not.
right, all right. Yeah, I thought it got cut. So yeah, and what happens is after 5 to 10 minutes of no response, it'll time out, and it's not a really good UX. And I hate that. And every time I try to say, hey, what happened? Retry. It's just not a really good experience. But in Claude Code, it does not have a timeout. It'll just keep waiting, even if after 24 hours you come back and resume it, it'll just resume right back where you left off. And also, other thing is I've seen Claude Code use a bit less credits compared to Cursor again, and this is with a big asterisk. It's not always true. This is with a big asterisk, and obviously, this depends on your use case as well. So take this with a grain of salt. That's one more thing. And the other thing majorly is recently Cursor came up with this agentic workflows and pipelines, which is good. I've tried it out. But Claude Code did this long time ago. So that's why personally prefer Claude Code. And it's just the ease of access that you get with Claude Code, because what happens is you have this Claude application that you could use. And let's say you're at the gym or whatever, and you have to make a recent update to your repository, right? You could just clone the repository, say, hey, update this in the app itself, in the Claude app. And while you're in the gym working out, you could be pushing code and you could be reviewing PRs. And dude, that's just a crazy life hack that I figured out. And that just makes me feel like even if I'm stepping out or going out somewhere, I'm going for dinners, I could still be productive. And I think that's a win-win for me. And what you could do is, let's say you make an update when you're in the gym with the Claude Code, right? You could use something called as teleport. And what that'll essentially do is, hey, you know what? Teleport this thread with whatever update you did to your local, local instance. And so it just copy paste that thread's history, whatever, and then you could just resume right where you left off. So all these things is just when you kind of like get into the rhythm, get into it's almost like an ecosystem, if you will, and it works really well. So that's why I personally prefer Claude Code, and none of this to say Cursor doesn't do it. It's just that I'm a sticky customer to Claude Code, so to speak. So yeah, and you will understand why once you keep using it. So
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I've also tried Cursor's agentic approaches, and I understand, like, you could actually, I was thinking something like, oh yeah, if it's running this particular command, enable that automatically to run. So give it full permission to run. But, it has its own restrictions and things like that. But the bottom line is, it seems Claude Code has gained enough critical mass and momentum where it's entirely more agentic relative to other approaches, and it's yet to be seen how the other competition is going to adapt as well, if they haven't already. Okay, so
Yeah.
do you want to just
And one more.
go ahead,
Yeah, sorry,
please.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one more amazing feature that I kind of like it is the Claude Code sandbox feature. And as the name itself suggests, and okay, I'm sorry to assume, but for those of you who don't know what a sandbox is where it's like a self-contained environment where you could run code without having to worry about any of the threats that might otherwise arise because your agent is doing actions on behalf of you. So for instance, if you have like a database operations that you want to run migrations on, right? And you're not and you have probably multiple instances of your Postgres database, and you want to err on the side of caution and don't want to be all over the place, and you want to only give that instance of your Postgres to your agent without exposing anything else. You could do that with a sandbox, and that's super good. Although I've never seen an instance where Claude Code has taken an action on behalf of me and it has kind of erased the entire code base or entire database. But in Twitter, I keep seeing more often than not that it does happen to some people. So yeah,
Yeah,
using
I've seen some too. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So
I think there
using
was a tweet from
sandbox.
Andre saying he was actually doing something and it just did an rm-rf, and something like that happened.
Yeah,
I don't recall. But yeah,
exactly.
I just took out the cameras in order to expand the screen so that way the display is focused on the screen. Do you want to actually
Yeah.
talk us through the getting started part of Claude Code? I understand it's a terminal based tool, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's a
let me
terminal
also
based.
pause here for a second. Sorry. I think the audience here could be somebody who is an absolute beginner. And also, we may assume, I want to ask you, should we assume they have a programming background or not? I think
Uh, I mean,
yeah.
so it goes both ways. Great question, and it goes both ways. So how is it different? Let's say, how is this different from people who are experienced versus people who are not experienced? I'll just lay this out to you. So again, alluding back to the example that agent takes an action on behalf of you that you did not intend to, right? So
Yeah.
in that instance, if you don't have experience, you might run into those problems. If what I'm trying to say makes sense. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing. It's just that more experience, you could take more informed decisions, right? So if you don't have any experience, you wouldn't know what RM-RF means or whatever, right? In that case, you would just say, hey, okay, execute, and things might go wrong. On the other side, you
Got it.
know what you're doing and you have some basic experience and you know that, okay, RM-RF is not a great thing to be doing. So it depends. So what I would say is always err on the side of caution for two reasons. One is you are actually learning. Even if you're a beginner, you don't know anything, you're actually learning what each command means. And there is a really slick hook that we could add. Again, why I like Cloud Code so much is you could add these hooks. What these hooks effectively mean is it's like for the lack of better words, I have to use some technical terms, but I'll kind of clear it out.
Yeah.
There's
So,
something called as a
Sari, I think
middleware.
we should assume some sort of technical prowess with our audience. I don't know that they have to be like, entirely developing and shipping production systems. However, we should sort of assume some sort of technical prowess just to make this session more meaningful for everybody. And in case there are breaks or gaps in their knowledge, they can perhaps go back and look up a certain topic or ask ChatGPT, or maybe they can go ask whatever tool you're gonna. Maybe we can build another tool to help these beginners. But let's just assume some sort of base technical knowledge, not to be an entire expert, so that way we can make further progress.
Yeah, great. But yeah, I mean, what you said absolutely makes sense, but I also don't want to scare away non-technical people. So I'll try my best to kind of explain it in both ways. So yeah, what I was trying to say was there's this thing called Claude hooks. What it effectively does is it's like a pre-execution hook, post-execution hook. So in a nutshell, what you're essentially saying is, hey, when something is about to happen, execute something before that. And when something happens, execute something after that. So for people who are trying to learn a framework, for instance, LangChain, LangGraph, you don't know anything, right? And you want to learn that. So what you can say is, hey, agent, you're about to go and do something. Why don't you tell me what you're going to do? And after you've done, why don't you tell me what exactly happened and how you could teach me all those learnings that you implemented, if that makes sense, right? So that way you're also learning, you're also improving, and you're also developing. So it's like a 3-in-1 kind of thing.
I have a question there. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry for the interruption. I guess I have to preface with, sorry for the interruptions ahead of time.
No, don't.
You mentioned about the hook. I think let's come back to hook if you're okay with that. Let's first get to Claude Code basics, and then maybe we can come back to hook and other cool features of Claude Code. The reason is that way we have a flow established.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was just saying you could learn a lot more from that, but yeah, you're right. So, there are two ways to get started with Claude Code effectively, and this is what I like to do. You could just search Claude Code in your preferred browser, and the first link should get you here. And you can see for Linux.
Let me actually put the full screen on the.
I could zoom in a bit if.
Yeah, thanks.
No worries.
This is good.
Yeah. So you could come here, and depending on the operating system that you're running, you could just run these respective commands and get started out there. And once you've done that, typically. So once you've done that, typically you could access your Claude through. You could open.
So you just ran those two commands, and it'll install Claude. And then now you're able to run this Claude command. Okay.
This command, yeah. So you could just hit Claude, and it'll ask you, hey, you know what? You're about to run this. This can pose security threats. This is just so that you know the risks of running this and things of that nature, which is fine. You could safely ignore this. You can just say yes, proceed. And this is where you would live most inside your terminal. And another reason why I really love Claude is it makes you look like a hacker in those typical sci-fi movies where they just show you some random bunch of Python code or whatever, right? Just print statements, and it makes you look like a hacker.
You're a CSI. You're penetrating some of the more secure systems. And, you see all that. Okay. You're a hacker officially right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Regardless if you are one or not, but.
And a little bit of detour. If you wanted that effect, it's called Hollywood. So LLYW. I don't think I have it installed, but you could install Hollywood, and it'll give you the same kind of effect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So yeah, this is where you live and this is where you do most of your stuff. And I want to quickly walk you through the / commands. If you do /, you have a lot of these commands that comes up. Typically, let's say you're getting started out, right? And what I would advise is, I would advise you guys to set up something called as agents. And here, let me make this run. Let me
Okay, are
zoom
you
in a
able
bit.
to zoom this a little bit?
Yeah. Oops. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, this is good.
Okay, cool. So now you should be, I think when you get started out, you should create something called as agents. Now, what are agents? Agents are nothing but, they are LLMs, but they have the ability to make different tool calls. Now, what are tools? It could be reading a file, writing to a file, doing a web search, maybe creating an image, any extra activities that otherwise would require to make another tool call, right? To make some other calls to get to the output, that's where you call it as an agent. It's basically just an LLM, but which has access to specific calls it can make for specific scenarios. Now, let's say I want to create a agent.
So obviously this is a naive point, but it's worth mentioning. What you just said is agent is sort of a bunch of LLMs that have ability to make tool calls. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does not necessarily have to be a bunch of LLMs either. An agent is nothing but, hey, you know what? You are an LLM, you're smart enough, but I'll give you the extra tool sets in your arsenal that you can pick and choose to get more done from you. And they don't have to be a bunch of agents. I mean, they don't have to be a bunch of LLMs. They can just be one LLM with access to multiple tool calls. They themselves, it in itself becomes an agent. And there's something called as multi-agent, which is what you're referring to, where you can have multiple of such agents, meaning LLM with different tool calls, LLM with different tool calls. And you combine together and they work in tandem, they become multi-agents. So one agent can it's just an LLM with access to two calls.
So if I want,
That's the technique.
got it. If I want to start a new project, do I always have to start with create a new agent, or is that your
No, no.
approach, or what's going on here?
Yeah, this is my approach from, battle testing and trial and error and learning from my experience. So, and I'm trying to give you the recipe here so that
Got it.
your
Got it.
development becomes easier. Yeah, I think I should have told that. But yeah, you don't
That's all right.
necessarily have
That's
to
why I'm
do
here.
that.
I'm here to ask these naive questions, like I said.
No,
But
great
go ahead.
question. Great question. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking that. So you don't have to do that. You could just say Claude, and without having to create these agents, you could just boom, get started already and say, hey, develop me a React app for X, Y, and Z. That works
Okay.
too. Yeah, but why I want to create these agents is because you could think of it like, I'll give you a very basic example. Let's say you are an expert at creating an app, deploying an app, and distribution as well. You're better off spending time while creating an app. It's not because you don't know the other two things, but it's just that you are super good at that comparatively to distribution and deployment, so to speak, right? So why we have to create these agents is because you want these specific agents to do very specific tasks where they excel in those specific areas. I hope that makes sense, right?
I see. So
So
they have
now,
roles. They have a specific
exactly.
role and responsibility. They're only focused on that. Whereas it's not like a general agent that can do multiple things, wear different hats.
Absolutely. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's absolutely why we want to create agents. And what these agents allows us to do is, you could think of it like a master and slave architecture, where there's like a master that is dictating which slave should be used for what purposes. And the way the master picks its slave.
I think the terminology now is you're supposed to use leader and follower. But
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I was about to kind of say that, it's just easier to kind of
No, I understand. Let's
imagine
proceed.
that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, leader and a follower, right? So the leader will pick, hey, which follower to pick, and how does it pick? How it picks is how you set up your agent. So here what you're doing is you're setting up your followers, where you are the leader where you give the topic or you give the task to the leader, and the leader delegates to specific agents if it has one, right? So I'll
Okay.
show you an example. So now when Claude, you say /agents, it shows up this UI. and it asks, hey, you want it for personal or project? Now, what this simply means is you could isolate this. Let's say you are building a project and you don't want these followers for every other project that you're building. You just want it for this project. So for instance, I could say, let's say you're going to build two different projects, and for one, you're going to use LangChain and LangGraph, and for other, you're going to use another framework like Strands or Crew AI or
True
whatever,
AI.
right? Yeah. So in that scenario, what you want to do is you want to keep it at a project level because this is persistent only to that project. You don't want this agent anywhere else. I hope
Ah,
that makes sense, right? But if you want to say personal, this means this is available throughout your
life
all of your
cycle of
projects.
usage of Claude. Okay. Yeah, I was
Exactly.
thinking, why even have this discrimination? I was thinking like, okay, if you have a project, then that LLM is supposed to be more serious, and personal is like, okay, I'll just do whatever tasks I want to do when I feel like doing it. When the I'll just downgrade the model or something. But
Yeah.
thank you
No.
for clarifying.
Yeah.
It's more like a project is particular to that session. Let's just say, for the lack of word, session. And then
I wouldn't say
not
session.
session. Yeah,
Yeah.
session means you just like you come back. That's a
Yeah.
different session. Let's say
Yeah.
particular to that job or a task, or not even task,
Yes.
project itself, I guess, for the lack of
Yeah.
words, right?
Yeah.
Project is a very straightforward definition, has a definition. And then personal is like universally available for different projects, correct?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for those techies out there, it's if you use Python, it's like personal is your base environment where you have this Python interpreter available throughout your terminal, but project is your custom specific environments that you create for the specific projects, right? It's pretty much like that. So yeah, so you wanna it depends
Oh,
on
it's
your
like
use
a
case.
Conda environment or a Pi env or a UV environment for that particular
Exactly. Where
project.
you have
Okay,
specific packages for specific projects and it
makes
doesn't
sense.
come outside, and base is everywhere, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's the best example I
I
could
know.
give.
That's a good analogy. Easy to relate to.
Yeah, exactly. So right now I want to, since I'm an extensive LangChain LangGraph user, I will say personal. And why did I do that? Was because I want LangChain LangGraph agents everywhere. I don't want it just particular to this project because my life is just LangChain and LangGraph, right? But anyway, so we could say now there's two configurations that I'll ask, and I don't go to manual configuration because you have to tweak a lot of settings, and it's just unnecessary because generate with Claude, which is recommended, is the easiest approach, and so I will select that. So what this is asking is, hey, you want to create an agent, and Claude will give all the templates out for you. You just have to fill in those details. The easiest approach, right? And you go say, okay, I want to generate with Claude. Now here is where it asks, hey, create an agent, describe what this agent should do, and when it should be used. Be comprehensive for best results. It gives you an example. Help me write unit tests for my code. So now I hope it starts to make sense. Now, again, what are we doing? We're trying to create a sub agent. It's almost like a follower, a leader follower relationship. And the follower is specific to do what? Here's where you describe what this agent is going to be used for. So I'm going to say, hey, use this agent only for doing research on LangChain and LangGraph documentation. Use the MCP that I already have, and any LangChain and LangGraph implementation or questions that I have should be forwarded to this agent.
Can
So
you?
I have a
Yeah, you have a. It seems like a text to
yeah,
speech.
yeah, I have this text to speech going on here, so that way I don't even have to type. And probably we could show you how you can set this up as well. It's not a big deal. But
Yeah. So
yes,
you mentioned something called MCP. Now, many
yes.
people know what MCP is. For those who don't know what MCP is, can you give us an intro
Yeah,
for
absolutely,
MCP?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And as you rightfully said, I didn't want to like put everything all at once. And that's why I didn't talk about MCP, although I
Yeah,
think,
just give
yeah,
us like
not,
an overview. We
yeah,
can come back to depth
yeah,
later on.
yeah. MCP if somebody asks you what is MCP, you can say Model Context Protocol, right?
Hey, great.
So what an MCP is essentially, it's basically nothing but a tool call, but exposing that tool call through servers that you could set up. You don't have to go ahead and internally implement that tool. and expose that tool to your agent. Instead, what you could do is you could tell the agent, hey, we have a tool called XYZ. For instance, you want to create a tool that basically converts an Excel document to PDF, right? And you want to probably create a tool for that. And you will probably code it out in Python and say, hey, the input should be Excel, output should be PDF. And you'll do your magic with Python and it returns out a PDF. But however, there's a lot of setting up that you have to do, right, with native tools. But what you could do is you could create that tool, expose that tool as an endpoint, so to speak. Although it's, yeah, you could call it as an endpoint. And once that is out there living in the web, what you could do is something called as MCP, wherein you could tell this agent, hey, agent, there is this tool called convert Excel to PDF in this endpoint or in this live link. So every time you need to convert an Excel to PDF, make a call to this, send in the necessary parameters, probably the input directory and where you want it stored, and boom, it'll do the job. And once it returns, it'll return a 200 OK. And once it returns that, probably more information as to this file size or whatever, however you set it up, and that's it. So that is what an MCP in a nutshell is. So you could set up a tool calls in two different ways. You could internally build that tool call through LangChain, LangGraph, or any native framework way, or you could do it through MCP, which is the common way to. It's the common template that you could use for any of your tools that you create and expose it to live servers. And you could just say the agent, hey, every time you need this, just make a call to this server and it'll give you the output. That in itself, in a nutshell, is what an MCP does. And in this instance, what
I have a
LangChain
follow-up
MCP.
question. Why can't somebody simply use REST API for that or something like that?
Yeah, you could definitely use a REST API. But again, you'll be saying, hey, agent, make a call to this REST API, right? And you should probably pass in the authentication header or XYZ, which you should do even for MCP as well. But it's a bit more straightforward than to simply say use a REST API. And I'll show you why that is and how you can set up an MCP, for
So it kind
instance.
of gives you like a layer that is more easy to deal with
Yeah.
relative to.
So absolutely. And another thing I want to say is, at least previously, now people have started focusing on building it differently. But previously, when you have a REST API, REST APIs were not built keeping agents in mind, right? Probably you could expect the REST API to not have any definitive description of what the tool does or this API does. It could just be an input output, and you don't know what actually the tool is doing or the API is doing. It was not built with keeping agent in mind. But MCP here, on the other hand, is built specifically for agents. And what that internally means is you'll give better descriptions, you'll give better input output examples, and you'll give better, response output as well, so that the agent knows better. And
So
in
it's
case
like
of,
management of context is handled by the server provider more efficiently, and that can be
yeah, so to
consumed by
speak.
the
Yeah. Yeah,
requester
let
as
me
well.
ask you this. Yeah, let me ask you this. I mean, at least we know we kind of have to follow when we build, for big companies. Nevertheless, but let me ask you this. When was the last time you actually spent time to write a doc string for your Python function? It's almost, what's going on in your head and you kind of build it out and that's it. You could probably make that as an endpoint like that. But if you don't write the doc strings and you don't write very good explanation of what this tool does, you don't know the agent will pick that tool, right? And the only thing that it has is the name of the REST API itself. And maybe even that could not be very descriptive. So the agent has to kind of gamble, which is not really good when you're
I
relying on a
see.
completely non-deterministic system to build something deterministic, if that makes sense, right?
I see. Yeah. So
So
it gives you the entire conduit, like the entire parts that are necessary to make this communication happen more seamlessly, whether it's the context or, the actual prompt embedded on the server side or,
yes,
whatever the tool provider has to do is handled in a more efficient way compared to something like a REST API, which is just, request response and that's it. It's not
yeah,
management of
exactly.
context or anything like that.
Exactly. And how are you going to error handle when you could just throw a 401 or 400, some random error, or maybe during the process itself it failed, right? And if you don't have good error handling, the agent does not know at what specific point you failed, or the REST API failed. So in those kind of scenarios, it's better to have an MCP. So that it's built specifically for agents, and we have different error handling different error handling workflows and things of that nature, so that we are completely open to whatever happens during the process of execution, right? So yeah, that's a big story about
Detour.
MCP.
Got
Yeah,
it.
detour. Yeah, but coming back, and why I like LangChain and LangGraph so much is because of their own native MCP. It's called boom. Hold on, let me open up the LangChain LangGraph docs. So I just want to kind of like show this experience. So you see, every LangChain documentation at the end, you can see the connect. It has us connect these docs, and these kind of small things is what is going to make a lot of, it's a game changer, if you will. So what
Yeah.
you could do is, so what this MCP server does is effectively all of this documentation is indexed, and basically it's RAGed, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and it's available in this endpoint. That's it. So what you could do is, if you have a question, instead of coming here and say, hey, ask AI, you could natively do that through an MCP without even context switching and coming to this documentation and seeing everything. So it is so succinct in the sense that once you run this command, Claude MCP add transport of the MCP endpoint, that's it. You'll set up an MCP. And every time Claude needs to get some information from LangChain and LangGraph, you don't have to come here and search for the documentation. The agent can basically ask a question, and it'll retrieve the MCP tool call, will return a response to those respective chunks, relevant chunks, and the agent can go ahead and figure out its next process. And that is exactly why we're building this agent also in the first place. So uh, and you have to be very descriptive here, so that the leader knows when to kind of give the follower which tasks. So if I have anything to do with LangChain and LangGraph, this is the follower the leader is going to use. So you can hit enter. And what Claude is really internally doing in the background is, from this, it's going to add more description, more information, to make it much more comprehensive. So you see how much it's making our life as developers so much easier, right? So it's generating the agent from the description. It's doing a bit more in the background. It's going to take a few seconds.
So you ask
And
this
one,
agent to go through the LangChain documentation whenever needed.
exactly. Now it says, hey, you know what? I'm going to create an agent. Now, again, this is where the definition of agent becomes even more crystal clear, hard coded into your DNA, is that when you're creating an agent, you have access to so many tools, and that's why it becomes an agent, not otherwise. Or else it's just an LLM without any tool calls. Now it has access to read-only tools, edit tools, execution tools, MCP tools, and bunch of other tools. Much all tools. So I say continue, and now it is going to ask, hey, which model do you want me to use for this specific agent? Because, and this is really good, simply because, and I think you can give a better explanation here as to what goes on internally, but Claude
Not
Code, I
that I
mean, at
work for
least,
Anthropic, but I can
yeah,
give you
not,
some sort of speculation.
yeah, exactly. You could do speculative decoding.
Yeah.
So, uh, you know, Claude, or at least Anthropic, is notorious, and I don't want to get into any controversy, but I'll be upfront of what my experience was before signing up for the complete version of Claude Max, which is what I'm using. I'm paying $140 something. The agent's response was so good; it was top tier. And once I kind of subscribed, after like 2 to 3 calls, or probably after 2 to 3 sessions, I could see the performance kind of degrade over time. And probably, Rog, you can explain why that happens. You're
Well,
a
I mean,
better,
they do a lot of tricks, right? They want to optimize for
yeah,
performance. They distill, they quantize, they do all kinds of inference optimization techniques to reduce the cost per token generation for them. Makes sense
yeah,
because they have to do things like, well, does it make sense really? At least from the point of Anthropic, you got to think, well, I'm getting so many inbound requests. I got to ensure that my model is doing a good job reasonably, but even if it takes a small performance hit, you know, all kinds of fancy inference compressions, optimization techniques. Like you said, your draft model is good, and your verifier is also good, but the draft model is not that good, but it's faster. Things like that for
Yeah.
speculative decoding, and so many other
Yeah.
interesting things that happen when you ask a request to your LLM, send a request to your LLM. But yeah, so you mentioned this because you always pick the Sonnet version.
Yeah. So what happens is, obviously we know that Opus takes a lot more, a lot more tokens. So it's more on the expensive end, so to speak. So, and you want to be really good at using what agents for, or at least what LLMs for what specific, tasks. So for instance, I want my agent to do a really good background research and come up with the right way to implement things, right? I don't want to kind of try to cut some corners here and there and then end up with a bad product because the background research was not good enough. Albeit if the coding model itself is not good, it's fine. Well, when I say not good, I'm talking with Opus 4. Opus 5 versus Claude 4, Sonnet 4.5, right? So in those terms, not to mention, so Sonnet 4.5 is not good. I think it's one of the best models to code out there, if not better. But I think so. In that sense, what I want to do is effectively, for research purposes, I'm going to stick to using Opus. The reason is, only for research, when you're going to do and explore and come up with your implementation pipeline, you want the best research done out there so that your implementation becomes easy. So that's why I would rather go ahead and spend a bit more on researching than on the implementation side. So that's why I use Opus, because it is expensive, but it's also really good compared to Sonnet. So for research purposes, I would use this. And I mean, this is the next thing that it asks
Did you
is,
choose
hey, what
Sonnet or Opus? I thought you chose
I
Sonnet.
no, no, I chose
That was
Opus.
a quick maneuver.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. So yeah, I can go back. So here you see
Yeah.
Sonnet. Blue, the one that's highlighted in violet or whatever the color is my current highlight.
Yeah,
But
that's the
green with,
Hollywood AI hacker color.
yeah, yeah. So now it's Opus is selected. So, and now it's going to ask, hey, do you want to color code this agent? And again, agent, because it has access to different tools, and it's an
Ah.
LLM. So I would say, you know what, when it's trying to do some research, I like to see the color green. So when it is green, I know that instantly this is LangGraph agent that's coming in. So here we have all the agent that's there, and this is on the home, RigidDB, Claude. This is because we set it for the personal, not for projects. So it is not persistent to the project. It is throughout my lifecycle of Claude, and boom, boom, boom. It has system prompt, all the things that I gave.
So let me just quickly read through this. Use this agent when the user has questions. Okay, so you're describing what you're supposed to do there, and in system prompt, you're telling the
Yeah.
agent you're an expert LangChain. Okay, primary role
Yeah.
is
And
blah
and
blah.
and and yeah, and note that I didn't say this. The only thing
Yes,
that I told was what I wanted this agent to be, right? And Claude is slick in the background to have done all of this for me. So
good.
yeah, so that's why I love it. So I press enter, and now boom, we have a LangChain, LangGraph researcher, Claude platform researcher, and that's it. So you've
Where
successfully
did the
created.
Claude platform researcher come from?
This is natively installed when you. I mean, this comes
Oh,
natively when you install Claude.
so that's the agent responsible for giving the system prompts and other aspects, I imagine.
Yeah, and any other things that you ask questions regarding the Claude code itself, the Claude platform itself. This is the
Yeah.
agent that Claude is internally built for us to make our life easy. Yeah, and escape to go back. Boom, that's it. So it's created. Now you can say agents. Again, you can check out all the agents that you have, but it'll show, okay, LangChain, LangGraph researcher is created. Now, another cool thing that I was talking about was MCP. So again, anything you want to access, you could just say / and you can type that you want. And different commands, I could refer you to the documentation, all the / commands that exist. But yes, so if you type MCP, I mean, this is showing so many because, of course, I'm an active user. I use linear, I use playwright, context. these are different MCP servers for specific tasks. I don't want to get too much into the details here, but I'll show you how you could enable the LangChain LangGraph MCP here. So if you come to this directory, use this docs, and you say connect this with Claude Code. It says if you're using Claude Code, run this command on your terminal to add the server to your current project. Boom. Just copy that, come here and paste it. Actually, not during the session itself, because terminal. I mean, this is a terminal command and not the Claude command, right? So be careful of that. So let me just quit the agent, and now here I can say MCP add Claude, whatever.
Okay,
And
so could we have not added with the //MCP command?
I have tried it. It doesn't work specifically. I think
Okay.
maybe in the latest updates, they might come up with that, but you cannot add a exclamation mark and try to do that way. So again, you say Claude, enter, and now you can say MCP. It should show
Well,
now
so
the
question to you now. Did it automatically pick up this project that we were targeting? Well, we didn't start a project. We only started the general environment so far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair
And
enough.
I mean, I didn't create anything persistent to the project, right? I created personally. So this is available throughout. And yeah, so now you pretty much set up with your, basics of your Claude code. You're kind of ready to use it. Now, what we want to do is, let's just do some sanity tests. Let's check if the LangChain or the LangGraph agent is actually triggered when we ask anything persistent to LangChain and LangGraph, and that it actually uses that MCP. That is the most crucial part, right? Because we want to get the latest docs from the documentation provider itself. And what better way to get it from LangChain themselves? So let me check. Hey, could you tell me how to use the deep agents CLI from LangChain LangGraph and what we could do with it? Yeah, so I hit enter, and hopefully, fingers crossed, now it should pick up the green.
Do you want to zoom
agent.
in a little bit, by the way? Just a little bit.
Yeah.
This is good, but it'd be good to zoom in just a little bit more. Yeah, this is good. I think slightly improved. Yeah.
Yeah, now you can see it is using docs LangChain MCP, and in the bracket it says MCP. It's pretty good, right? And that's what we wanted. And now this agent will basically, it's going and doing the research on deep agent CLI. So for purposes, so we're talking about this deep agents and this one. This is what it should be looking at specifically. So let's see if it actually does that. Okay, cool. And that was pretty quick too. You see, you didn't do any sort of context switching. You didn't do anything else. You set everything up and boom, it's available right on your terminal. And it says, hey, you know what? Deep Agent CLI is a terminal interface for building agents with persistent memory. It's built on top of LangGraph and inspired by applications like Claude Code, Deep Research, and Manus. What are its features, availabilities, and how to do CLI, deep list, boom. And for simpler use case, consider using LangChain's create agent or create agent. Would you like more details on installation, configuration, specific use cases? You could continue with this, but you get the point, right? Once you've set everything up, you get this agent that's basically go ahead and using the right MCPs to get you the output. So yeah, and from here on, we can start with the process of building what we want. And again, so now is where actually we will have to come at a fork. The fork between people who know what they are doing versus people who are getting started out there. And because I have been delving deep into this docs, I know for a specific use case what I want to use and what I don't want to use, which is equally as important, and how I could best get the output that I want. So yeah, so this is where a bit of research and experience do kind of like come in handy, but not to say that you have to have everything sorted out, right? And that's why we are setting up all these extra things that we want to do. So for now, let's define the tasks that we want achieved. So the task that we want achieved is what, like I said, we want to create an agent, a research agent, probably multi-agent scenarios where we want it to use the LangChain LangGraph and create an agent to go ahead and do the best possible research out there with web search. And all you have to do is just given the topic, and it needs to take care of everything. And at the end of the day, we need to get a LangChain application or a LangGraph application to kind of get it done. So we could ask this agent, hey, I want to build a LangGraph application that is going to go ahead and do extensive research. And when I say extensive, I mean really good extensive research using web search. You could use Tably if you wanted. Come up with the best article that it can write. And we want to make sure that this article doesn't sound anything like an agent has written it. No M dashes, please, unless it's absolutely necessary, right? And you want to make it sound like absolutely like a human. So why don't you go ahead and tell me how we can build this? Yeah, so one more thing that I want to kind of drive your attention to. So sorry, so my STT did not get that M dash, which is funny. So now I want to bring your attention to two things. You see how we have this new option called as plan mode, and the way I toggle that is using Shift and Tab. So when you just start your agent, it depends. If you have previous history, it will resume where you left off. But if not, if you're starting fresh, I would advise when you're trying to implement something and you don't know how to do it, you just do Shift Tab to cycle and come to this plan mode status or plan mode session. So what this will do is, like any other way that we do research and kind of go ahead and figure out something, this is exactly what the agent does. And this is so crucial. And I've seen time and again people not using plan mode. They're just actively jumping into having the Claude code, get the task done without actually researching the code base, see what has been implemented, or go ahead and doing the web search. Nothing of that was done. They just go ahead and implement it. So we don't want to be those kind of people, right? We want to actually do some actual research. So that way, that's why I always use plan mode. And this comes in really handy when you especially have big code bases that you're trying to implement on top of, right? So this is now we're starting off fresh, but imagine you have like 20 different files across 20 different folders and you want to kind of understand where to do what, and you want to merge the back end and front end. In fact, that's exactly what I've been doing with the parallel universe that I spoke about in the session. So always use plan mode and you'll see why. So right
So
now
this
it's in
plan
plan
mode,
mode.
this
Yeah,
is specifically going through what could be done in order to accomplish the ask that you provided. And
exactly.
if you don't use plan mode, what happens?
Yeah, see, if you don't use plan mode, you don't see this agent going ahead and doing all this research for you. And we know that when it comes to LLMs, context is king. Context is what will make or break your application. And if it does not have that context, it's just going to do or build something that from its knowledge, or at least its cutoff date. And its cutoff date is obsolete, right? And we don't want to be there. We want to use the latest and greatest, and we want to integrate it properly to our existing code base. So it's going to go ahead and do the research, get all the things that we want, and it's asking me right now, hey, I want to use this MCP that you've set up. Do you want me to use it? You can select yes, but if you don't want it to bother you again for docs langchain MCP, you can say yes and don't ask again and hit enter. Now it's going, see, you see there's another explore agent that's basically going ahead and exploring all the patterns that all the documentation that is there. So so right now what you could do is you could just drink your coffee, drink your protein, and just wait for this to, comprise everything in one big document, and it'll come up with the MD document MD. And the cool part about this is once it's kind of figured out stuff, it'll ask you follow-up questions as to how you're planning to build this. So I'm guessing, yeah, see, uh, before I create implementations, I have a few questions, which is really good because you want you and the agent to work in tandem, right? So now it's
Yeah.
asking, hey, which language do you want to build this in? Which is a very good questions because I didn't say which language, and I'm good at Python, so it's almost like selecting whatever you wanted. So you can do Python, or if you want to say something, you could do that. But Python recommended. What type of interface do you want? for this research. And keep in mind, these questions are dynamic based on its research and based on your task requirements. So none of this is one size that fits all. So I want run from terminal, go for scripting. Say like, you know what? Let's go ahead and build this API application, right? Because I don't want a CLI. I want to be able to visualize and see everything. So API. Okay, so now how deep should the agent, how deep should the research go before writing the article? 3 to 5 search iterations, good balance of depth and speed for most topics, 5 to 10, configurable per run. Well, let's keep it configurable per run because I like the flexibility.
Yep. I was
So
going to
I can
suggest the
say
same.
that. Hey, you know what? Keep it configurable per run, but also keep 10 to actually 5 to 10 actually 7 as default. And if I want to change it, I should be able to change it as well. Okay. And do you want human review checkpoints during research process, fully autonomous, runs to completion, review before writing, review at each stage? You know what? I don't want fully autonomous. Okay, great question. What do you think, Rock?
Yeah, I like to, if I was, which I do write some, I'd like to like check at every stage. I don't want to just let it write some garbage.
Okay, but at every stage, then it's a very human involved process. Again, you're kind of defeating the purpose of automation. But if that's what you want,
Because I was writing as a human, so that's my
yeah,
initial thinking. But I did use LLMs to a good extent for my
yeah.
process of planning and stuff like that. I don't mind it
hmm
being hands-on. So why don't I get the flexibility to do it at every stage, however I feel at that point in time? Can I do that?
So review at each stage, that's what you're saying?
No, I'm saying, say I want to write a blog now. I want it to be at that point in time, I decide, yeah, let's do it autonomously. And then next time when I go write a blog,
Oh,
I say, okay, yeah, you know what? I want to review at this particular stage.
got you,
Could
got
I
you, got you.
customize
Yeah,
it?
that's for that. Yeah, got you. That's okay. Hey, you know what? I want the flexibility to have it either autonomous or review at each stage or review before writing, depending on how I feel at that point in time. So probably give like an enum or whatever that you think is right to achieve this. I should be able to probably select it in the API as well. I hope this makes sense. So now we could go ahead and it's all the final submit. You see everything is good and hit the submit answers. Now this is where, we're doing back and forth. Now this is really good because you're just not saying, hey, go ahead and implement without the agent having any latest knowledge, without the agent asking you any requirements, without the agent not doing any due diligence. So this is so much better. This will make your application so much better. Now it's calling the plan sub agent. What does it say? In context. So this is another MCP that I have used. Well, I don't want to use this. Not, let it use it. It's fine.
What is this? This context
It's
7
just a
or?
context, context library where like if it needs more context and it thinks it needs more context, it's going to go ahead and call for different documentations.
So which different documentation? Is it the
So,
LangChain
like I
documentation?
said, I said get fast API, right? I said use fast API. I said use,
I thought you just said
Lang.
use API, but I guess it takes fast
Yeah, I
API as
mean,
default.
yeah, API with Python. It asks which which language you want it. So I said Python, and de facto is well, not de
Fast
facto,
API.
but mostly use this fast API. So that's why it's trying. Hey, you know what? Let me also go ahead and get more context on the fast API because I don't have a MCP specific to fast API, but I have an MCP which is called Context 7, which is general purpose MCP that basically gets me docs for different platforms or different
I see. So it's
frameworks.
sort of like a searching thing that does docs,
Yeah,
fetching for you.
absolutely. I mean, you could get away without this, but hey, you know what? I don't mind it. As long as my application is top tier, it's got all the latest stuff. I don't have any deprecation warnings, so I won't say no to it.
Yeah.
So, and all you have to do is that's it. Like, I mean, we live in this such a great time. This is a great time to be alive, great time to be building applications. You could just be sipping coffee, watching your favorite Netflix show, and also getting work done.
This
Although
is
I
pretty
would,
cool.
yeah, I would advise don't do it until it starts actually coding. And definitely don't do it in a big code base. If it's just your private pet projects, or if it's the repository that you solely have it and you're the owner of it, sure. But if it's like a big, I mean, you're working to a company and like you want to do your own due diligence and research and make sure that every code that's been sent by Claude is actually getting the job done. So, and one
Yeah,
thing
I
yeah,
no, go
another
ahead.
thing that I've seen Claude do is which I don't really like is it adds a lot of fallbacks in the sense that let's say you have an API call and for some reason it thinks, you know what, it's best to have a fallback when instead of having a try catch, I'll have a fallback and I will return some other response, right? Maybe you built your application to expect it to fail, and you have a when you're working with different front end, back end. I've experienced this even at Rootly. Is that when I was trying to implement some stuff? Obviously, we work front end, back end, and the front end already handles for fallbacks, and I don't have to add it on my end externally. So just a try catch block works, or some assertion blocks work, but the agent says, you know what, I'll add a fallback to the fallback, and as just redundancy in code, which is not good. So you could kind of like tell all those things in Claude skills, which we'll be talking probably in the next session. We don't want to overwhelm the viewers, everything
Yeah,
in
I
this
was going to
session.
ask you about there's cursor rules, right? There should
Yeah,
be, I imagine, Claude rules.
yeah, Claude rules, Claude skills, all those things. And the beautiful part is you saw the Claude agent, right? The one that comes pre-installed with Claude. That agent is the one that actually takes care of all those things. Like you could just ask, hey, how help me build a Claude skill for this, right? And I follow a specific process that I would like to show you guys on. But yes, so you see, this is what the Claude came up with. This is its implementation plan, extensive research and finding all the relevant docs. So here's the overview. Build a LangGraph based research agent that performs extensive web search using Tably and generates human quality articles. The agent runs as a fast API server with configurable research depth, which is what you asked for, and review modes, right? So the key requirements: use Python, fast API, Tably for web search, research depth configurable, default 7, range 5 to 15, review modes, autonomous, review before editing, review at each stage. This is probably going to add as an enum. This is what we wanted. Writing style, human-like, no hem dashes, avoid AI patterns, right? Pretty much it has got everything that we wanted. And this is for the guys, Python guys who are, or girls who, you know, it's kind of the structure that we want out. It's like a tree structure. So the search agent, it's got the toml, env, main file, API routes, graphs for LangGraph services, is a web search, and the LM config is where you have all the pydantic settings for, review modes and bdep, I assume, and the graph architecture. This is so straightforward. And if you know LangGraph, this is pretty cool. So first is it comes, plans the queries, approval, and LangGraph natively handles for human in the loop, which is what, Rock, you asked. And execute search. This is going to call the Tably search. Analyze results, decide continuation, loop back or continue. Again, human in the loop, approval, synthesize, right? Approval article, complete, and finally come to an end. So I think it's straightforward, and I'm happy with this. Different nodes. LangGraph is basically a graph structure of different LLMs taking actions, and each node is where it has the brains or the logic or where the action takes place itself. So plan queries is one node, approval queries, another node, execute search, web search, analyze results, kind of like summarize everything, decide continuation. This is probably human in the loop, approval findings, interrupt before writing. This is for review before, synthesize, create article outline from findings. Yeah, sure. Write article and approval article, final article,
So
review at each stage.
yeah, suppose I want to add two more features. Let's say the first feature is a reviewer of like language and grammar and all that stuff. The other feature is actual reviewer of factual stuff. Like I have a draft. I want to be able to factually check if it's correct or not. How do we do that?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So this is the kind of like the summary of what we want to build and how it's going to build. This is a really
Yeah.
good starting point. But you want to add anything more. Now this is where it's asking, hey, do you like to accept it or do you want to make more changes to this? And what was the first requirement again?
And sorry, can we go up? I just want to read through what it was showing. Sorry to interrupt there. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
no
have.
worries. This is getting a bit more technical. So this is LangChain, LangGraph specific, and
Can you
I don't want
elaborate
to.
a little bit more on those nodes as far as LangChain,
Yeah.
LangGraph is
So
concerned?
yeah, absolutely. It's better to do it with an example, but I'll try to keep
All right, fine.
it.
Let's come back to it. I'll just take that LangGraph as a DAG, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a DAG. It's got a starting node and an end node, which is represented
Mm,
here and here.
Got it.
And how the process flows is how the edges connect to each other. You could have conditional edges, you could have like direct links, you could have indirect
Mm,
links, conditional edges, so on and so forth, right? So when you start, first thing it always goes to is the plan query node. So that is your starting point. After start, you're directly going there. There's no other question. Second is you're going to approval queries. So review at each stage. So now, previously what happened? It planned it. Are you good with that? Right? So this is
mm,
the situation where we want the review modes to be review at each stage.
mhm.
Does it make sense? At each stage. So the first stage is plan queries, and the second one is approval for queries. So what you could imagine, there is a node plan query, and there is another node approval queries. Now, if you've enabled review at each stage, enum, so it's going to plan query, then go to review at each stage. Okay, you accepted it. And that is the approval. Actually, yeah, that should be the approval or approval findings, right? So once you've accepted it, and if you've enabled review at each stage, next stage it'll go to execute search. Okay, it did the web search. Now again, it'll come back to this approval queries node. Does it make sense?
I see. So it sort
Yeah.
of has a looping structure.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on your requirement, because you asked that, hey, you know what? I want the review to be however I feel at that point in time.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
could be
yeah.
fully autonomous as well. Like in that sense, I won't, if it's fully autonomous, it's going to go plan queries, approval queries. No,
Wow, I
it'll
love it.
skip it because, yeah. And
So
execute
the
search, boom.
logic is sort of, instilled in here by LangChain graph. That's where
Exactly.
LangGraph is
And
coming.
this is,
Okay.
yeah, this now you know why I love this so much. Like, there's so much flexibility with what you could do, and since it's represented as a graph, you could play around with it. Yeah, so on and so forth. If you've enabled review at each stage, after each execution of node, it'll come back to this node. And if you approve or reject, you could reject with a modify. You could say, hey, you know what? I don't like this part of it. Update it. Probably say, hey, you know what? Web search for something else, right? And it'll again come do it. It's an LLM. It can take its action. Again, come back to review at each stage. Do you like it? Pretty much what is happening here is the same thing, right? So now the Claude code is implemented as a graph itself because now it has come up with a plan. Now it is asking, am I good to go? Right? And now I'm saying, hey, you know what? I want to make some changes. Now it's going to make those changes and again come back to this state or this node, so to speak, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, so that kind of stuff is what we could build. And here we have the state schema, which is how we want to represent all the things that we want
So
to
what is
maintain in the
this? This
state.
is going to be.
So this is, yeah, this is more on the LangChain or LangGraph. Again, comes to the LangGraph area where we want to have specific states during each runtime, right? So what does it mean? Let's say findings. I'm positive the findings are the web search findings. Now, what happens is when the agent goes ahead and does a web search for a specific query, right? What happens? We get the output. Now, we get the output. Where are we storing that? We have to store that somewhere, correct? And that is where this schema comes into picture, if that makes sense.
Okay,
So,
so it's not temporarily stored in some sort of a RAM output. It's going to go to
yeah,
a
it's in
persistence.
memory. Exactly.
Okay.
It's in memory. Yeah, it's in memory. However, if you if you hook it up with the Postgres database and whatnot, at the end of the execution of the thread and everything, that thread gets stored in the Postgres database. So it does not
I
have to
see.
be in memory. Yeah. So again,
Nice.
this is dynamic to each application that you have. It can be anything that you wanted. And this is super good. And see, review mode is a review mode of class. So again, it'll come here. It's 100% enum, whatever enum that you select in the UI that you probably have UI, max iterations. Again, this is all dynamic way to set things up. You could set this up dynamically during runtime, and some of them get stored during the agent runtime, if that makes sense. You could pass in, let's say you wanted to implement multi-tenancy, right? How would you do that? You could probably add a user and user ID and pass that user ID during every time that you run, if that makes sense, right? And using that user ID, you could probably call something from the database, get more information if you have stored any, and you understand what this user is all about, what their niche is, so on and so forth, and then basically go ahead and build what they're looking for. Yeah, and this is basically the endpoints that it has. Again, this is natively from LangChain, LangGraph. LangGraph gives us all the endpoints that we need to maintain threads, persistence with memory, Postgres, everything. Human in the loop using interrupt. So,
What
hey,
is
you know
that?
what?
Okay, so it's interrupt is a construct of LangGraph, I imagine.
Yes,
It's like, okay.
absolutely. You're absolutely right. You nailed that. So it's a construct of LangGraph. Interrupt means like, hey, during this execution, I want you to interrupt with this state. So you see, this is coming from the state. The type, the queries and message is coming from the state. And this was shown to the user at during runtime or during, it's going to just pause the execution, show it to the user in the front end, if you will, see everything. And then whatever you update, it's going to come here and update the state. That's it. All of this during runtime. And see, that's what it says. Graph pauses here until resumed via API. So you could say command and interrupt. Interrupt is going to momentarily stop the execution or pause the execution with that state, whatever is captured. And command is basically, it's going to resume with whatever the data the user gives. And you could
Okay.
store that in a variable, and that you could get from front end, whatever, depending on how you want to implement that. And that's why I really like LangGraph. And writing style, prompt engineering, explicit rules, no M dashes, natural voice, post-processing, regex cleanup, replace any M, boom.
So this is all coming
Dependence.
from the Claude agent, right? All this prompt
Yes.
engineering stuff addition.
Everything is from Claude. Yeah, everything is from Claude's plan.
Okay.
All,
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And critical files that we need, boom, implement steps. First, the setup, state, services, node, graphs, testing, so on and so forth. And now you said you wanted two updates, if I'm right.
Yeah, so I want two
what was the
reviewers. One
updates?
is basically a reviewer for, my grammatical mistakes, and another reviewer,
Which
most
is
importantly.
already, yeah,
is
sorry
there?
to interrupt you, which is already here, regex cleanup. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, English, you can make grammatical mistakes, right? Like, I'm sure I've already made a bunch of grammatical errors as I was speaking to you. But,
Yeah,
in,
same
in a
here.
blog, you want to make sure your grammatical errors are minimized. Even let's
Okay.
just dump that grammatical part for a second. Let's not worry about it. The other component I'd like to have here is a fact checking agent. Like if
Okay.
the
Yeah.
blog is, I don't know, maybe 15,000. No, that's a lot. Blog is 3 to 5,000 words. And you can have a bunch of statements that can be pretty. Yeah, okay, two things. You can have a blog that can have maybe some sort of conspiratory. You don't know for
So,
sure.
sorry, what was
Conspiratory
that
as in
again?
maybe creating allegations. Let's say I write a blog about, why NVIDIA is buying Grok. And then I can start all of a sudden saying, yeah, NVIDIA wants full control. Yeah, sure, that's a very good personal opinion blog. But when you put it out, let's say you're a company, you cannot make those allegations. You can simply say NVIDIA likes to have a larger boundary of, access. Let's just say for the lack of.
Like an adversary? That's what you mean? Like
Yeah,
an
so we
adversary?
just need a fact checker who also checks for inflammatory material. Inflammatory
Okay,
or
like a fact
accusatory.
checker.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a fact checker node or an agent or an LLM that essentially it's going to remove all of the opinions.
Well, yeah, opinions that can be misconstrued, or maybe it was inflammatory to begin with, but also opinions that could be misconstrued as inflammatory. Let's say
Okay.
it just removes inflammatory material if there is any.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Or, you know what?
So,
Let's simplify this for this conversation. Let's simply build a fact checker. Is whatever material that is produced by this blog, is it actually factually right?
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? I want you to add another update here. I want you to add another node or an agent that effectively, after everything is written, finally it does complete fact checking on everything from all friends. If every sentence that has been written in the blog is actually true.
I think this is a little harder, right? How do you do fact checking? Because you need
Oh, it's,
independent sources. At least the way I
yeah,
see it,
I
it's
mean,
somewhat of a hard problem.
oh no, at Open Sesame, this is actually one of the things that I also worked on because we were trying to eliminate hallucinations, right? One of the things that we did was obviously you need to have the ground source, the source of truth,
Yeah, correct.
ground truth data,
I mean,
and
sorry, I meant it's hard because your ground source of truth could be wrong.
absolutely, and for the best bet that we could the way we could achieve that is we kind of summarize from different sources and get to the state of point where all of them sources agree with each other.
Hmm.
And that way you come to the summarization that, okay, anything that may be said otherwise, sure, we don't want to even include that in the blog articles, but here are your different sources that are saying everything. I mean, that are saying that are saying things differently, but actually mean the same thing without having anything that's misconstrued or any
Yeah, that's a
inflammatory.
good starting point. You could also have different sources agree on the same wrong lie, and
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
that's that's the risk we take. But I think
yeah,
this is a good starting point. We
but
cannot go fix
absolutely,
the core problem, but this is a good starting point. Our
yeah.
job here is to explore Claude code, not become a fact checker.
So now it has given an
Oh,
plan. So it probably should have added one more thing. We should probably see it here somewhere. Oh yeah. See here, it says new and new. Verify every claim against finding sources, right? And rewrite unsupported claims to remove them. Claim or remove them. Kind of what we spoke about. If you're happy with this, we are good. Or if you want to guide the agent as to how you want to fact check, how you want to fix claims, you could do that as well. And it's
interesting.
again pretty much as easy as saying whatever you wanted here.
No, I think this video is pretty
Yeah.
lengthy already. So I think this sounds good. One, maybe two questions there. So to clarify, those nodes, are they LLMs on their own? I imagine they are, right? Separate
Not
agents?
every node is LLMs on their own, although some nodes can have LLM in them and have you could execute an LLM call, but not every
Yeah.
node necessarily has to be an LLM node, if that makes sense. So for instance, a web search, the execute search, right? This is not an LLM node. This is just a tool call, a node where where you're running the Tably web search and you're just getting the output and storing that into the state. That's it. That could be just what's happening there. So not every node necessarily has to be a LLM node, but you could have LLMs in them.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great question. Yeah, great question. So here's a fact check node implementation, claims, state fact check, go to. And go to is like I don't know if I'm sure you might have used the go-to function in your undergrad days where you've used it to go
I
from
was I
block to
was
block.
absolutely told never to use that because it's a bad compiler optimization. It destroys the
Yeah. So,
compiler's semantics of its optimization paths.
oh yeah. Okay. I mean, that's, I think I might have heard that too, but I've gracefully forgotten. So thanks for reminding that. Yeah. Go-to in here is, it's kind of trying to do the same thing, but inside of a command structure, where you say, hey, I want to update this. And then once you've updated this, resume it from fixed claims. So that's what it's doing. And this is more LangChain specific. Some of the things that you could, it's cool to learn. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm happy with this. You could take your time on reading this. And I think you should. If you want a really good output, you should. And if you have any doubts and things that you want to clarify, please, you could clarify that here. Um, and things
I
of
see.
that
You
nature.
got
And
questions and it'll help you understand. That's good.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one more thing is, you see how I have set up the speech to text? I think we should all be doing that, not simply because it saves time, but you'll be able to express yourself better. And when you're able to express yourself better, you get better outputs, right?
That's true.
And that just makes tremendous difference from just typing alone.
There's a
Because
there's a
when you type,
cognitive load on typing, and it's because you want to type less, you actually express less of what you're
Yes.
thinking, and that kind of, has a detrimental effect on the quality of the output from the LLM.
Yeah, exactly. It'll try to deter you from achieving the ideal state. So yeah, so I'm happy with this. So I'll say yes. And there are two options here: yes and auto accept edits, yes and manually approve. But auto accept, what it does is it's basically writes all the code, creates every file for you, and boom, does everything for you. But if you want to do manual accepts, you could do that. For everything, it'll ask you manually. I'm happy with auto accept, and the
So what
reason I'm
should
happy
a
with that.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The reason I'm happy with auto accept is because we have done our due diligence. We have done our research. We have done everything right to get to this stage. And that's when you can confidently say, hey, you know what? I can drive blind because I know I've set up my self-driving car to the optimal it can go, right? So
To the
I think that's why
optimal
I
that
want.
we can do in a 1 hour 30-minute session so far. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now it is asking, hey, I want to create this, and you want to allow it? Yeah, well, just make sure everything is right, and just
So
you could
so
just say
let me
yes
ask
and
you
go
this.
ahead.
Remember we did
Yeah,
the planning? What was it called?
yeah,
Planning mode? Or what is it called?
yeah. In the plan mode. Now you see
Okay.
it's in auto. I mean, accept edits on mode
Uh-huh.
because we are done with the planning. Now we want to implement. Right, we're done with the planning, and we want to the next step, which is the implementation, and that's where we have the accepts on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if I didn't do that planning, I would have asked it and it would just produce the code, or what would have exactly happened?
Yeah, if you did not do the planning, you would have asked it, and it would not have done such extensive research, and the LLM would have been, for a lack of better words, really bad at getting to this state. First of all, it
Yeah.
would have not asked
Oops.
you any follow-up questions. If you had any doubts, you would not have been able to figure it out, or kind of talk it through your agent. You're not working with the agent. You're just say, hey, you know what, like master and slave without any kind of sort of focus or nothing to go with, no blueprint, nothing, things of that nature, which typically yields in the bad. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, you get code that won't run, I suppose. Not sure
y-
that this would run, but you get code that
yeah,
is potentially garbage.
yeah, I
More
wouldn't say not run,
garbage-ish.
but
Yeah.
not necessarily not run, but it would have probably used the old code, which is not latest, which probably obsolete, or some things would have been deprecated, and probably it would have not been more optimized in the sense that it's not using the exact way that we wanted it to be. Probably if I'd have just said, hey, you know what, implement this in LangChain or LangGraph, it would have probably used TypeScript, right? And I don't even, I mean, I'm not a TypeScript guy. I know my way around it, but I'm definitely not a TypeScript guy or JavaScript. So so many things that you can avoid in planning mode, which you should always be doing it. And now you see, now we have the baseline that we're working with. And next, anything that we implement, we better to use plan mode because it's going to search through the code base first, understand the code base, and then try to plug in our new requirements to implement on top of. That way, it has complete sense. It's almost thinking like a developer who knows what has been built, right? And it does better research and comes along.
Why should we just, suppose let's take one step back. I did this, we went into the agent mode, /agent to get started, correct? What would have happened if I just simply said, hey, dude, you know what? I want this specific tool, figure it out. And here is the MCP.
I mean, if you'd have given the MCP as well, yeah, it could have. I mean, it would have used the LangChain documentation, but it would have been a hit or miss. I've seen it sometimes that if I'm trying to implement something, unless I don't set up specific agents for it, it is probably a hit or miss in the sense that it won't use that necessary tool call or the MCP because it thinks, oh, I already know it, I don't have to do it, and there's
Yeah,
nothing, no
we've seen
strict
such
principles
outputs.
guiding it,
Yeah.
right? If there is no guidance, you can't expect anything great. Sure, you would have gotten an output. I'm not saying no, but is it going to be this good, this comprehensive, this detailed, this on point? And I'm not making the claim that, oh, this is going to just run. No, no, no. I'm saying the the time to fixing the issues from this versus not using this approach would be more, right? So if you were to have not used this approach, you would have gone down dealing with a lot of other things that you did not want and basically hit a blocker at the very beginning level itself. So we don't want that. And you saw how the agent basically comes up with the project structure, right? And this is really helpful because the agent knows at what place what resides. And without this, you can't have how could I say, a continued way of implementation. You see, from in this instance, from dot dot models, this is coming because it has the project sense of what files belongs where and how I should, kind of import things from different folders or file structures. Yeah, so that's
So so once the code is done, are we going to test it out, or uh,
yeah, we
we're going
could
to
test
call
it
it?
out. We could test it out, or we could definitely test it out. Although I mean, we could have this run, and I'll show you how to debug this without actually, you don't have to feel all overwhelmed or scared. I'll show you how to test this out. Through the agent itself, the agent will figure out, come up with the solution, and if there is any issues, it'll try to fix it. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's so much better than you having to do everything on your own. So yeah, let's just wait for it to kind of get it done. Um, and once that's done, we can say, hey, you know what? Can you help me run this? It'll probably create the langgraph.json file, which is the langgraph specific architecture that we want to be using, and then kind of come up with the UI that we wanted, and then probably run it as well. So we could do a lot of stuff. And we could again optimize from here. We can say, hey, you know what? For every blog written, I want you to add the necessary images that we want. So you could probably create, what's it called?
A Nano Banana API endpoint and use it?
Yeah, that one. That's actually a great idea. But the other one that I was thinking was, what's it called? The mermaid diagrams, where
Oh yeah.
yeah, you show the workflow and everything. The things that I think one of the blog posts that you showed me, Rock, the other day was something like that we could do. Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. We just have to know what
Get
we want to
creative,
build
yeah.
and keep going. Yeah, absolutely.
I like that it's actually thinking and writing code. It's a different feeling because with Cursor, at least last time I used it, I guess I need to update my Cursor, but it's not as, what do you say, fluent. It wants to do a bunch of things and it's a little different feeling.
Yeah,
This is more
understandably.
straightforward and you have it.
Yeah. So finally, it kind of like confirmed everything, that if it has everything. So, hey, I built the complete LangGraph research agent. Here's what was created. Boom. Key features, LangGraph nodes covering full research pipelines, three review modes to run. And then, okay. So since I know LangChain and LangGraph, I know something called as langgraph.json file that you could use. So I'll ask it to do some research on that and implement that as well. Hey, could you help me run it? And could you use the langgraph.json file and probably look into documentation more on how to use it?
I love the keywords. Mosaic. What was the other
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
What was the other one I just
Forging.
saw? Not forging. It was yeah, it's something with an F. That was interesting too.
Yeah, and it comes up with a lot of like cool words here. You know, cooking, delegating. Uh, I mean, yeah, it's just fun the way they built it. Yeah, see, and how quick is it, man? It's so quick. Like if you were to go ahead and kind of figure this out on your own, it'd probably take at least 25
Well,
minutes,
this
or at
work would
least
have
when.
probably taken 2 to 3 weeks at least as a human. I imagine if you just
Yeah, absolutely.
manually try doing this.
Yeah, and you see, it like I just asked it now, and it you know did the MCP search, got all the necessary documentation, and boom, I found the documentation. Here it is. I'll add this. Boom, ENV, like
There
boom.
is some sort of a mouse ball sound I'm thinking, I'm hearing.
Oh, that's coming from my mouse. Sorry about that.
Well, I didn't think it came from anywhere else, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, so okay, it said I've added this. Now it is asking which LLM provider you want me to use. Well, I have the Claude, so I'm just going to use Claude. It says, do you have Tably API key? Yes, I have one. And Yeah, so it says create the .env file for you, and all I have to do is just put in my API keys. So, and let me open that on a separate window so that you guys
Yeah, so
don't
that way I
see.
cannot steal your API key and run you down to the ground.
Yeah,
Run you into the ground with the API key here.
yeah. Believe it or not, it has happened to so many people.
Hmm. Well, I saw
So
that maybe not now, a few months back, if you ask ChatGPT, give me an API key, it would just spit out the API key. And that would potentially work. That's because people just would paste their code, including the API key.
yeah, I mean that's fair. So let me
So what are we
copy
doing now?
my.
Is it
I mean,
installing it or?
yeah, it's installing all the dependencies, so I'll let it do its thing. Meanwhile, I will set up my env.
So it just is installing in which environment?
Oh, it'll
Eh,
create its own environment.
yeah, maybe we can discuss that part.
Yeah, definitely. It'll create its own environment because in the plan, it came up with all the requirements as well. Not sure if you saw it, but in the Claude Code plan, it came up with all the requirements as well,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and it's gonna basically use that to do it.
So is it like a Conda environment it's installing in right now? It
No,
seems like mini
usually
Conda.
it would do UV usually, but unless you say it otherwise,
But
it
I
will
saw
probably
it was
use
a
the.
mini Conda. Maybe it was because you see that mini
Okay, I
Conda.
mean, if it's Miniconda, then I think yeah, maybe it probably use Miniconda. So let me copy paste. Oh boy.
Feel free to stop the screen share for a moment.
I mean, it's okay because I have it in my other screen anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty much done with the key setup. Okay, so now I can say, hey, I've set up all the API keys in the env.example. Are we good to go? It's probably going to say, no, we are not because it needs to be .env file. So probably it's going to create, copy paste that env. Yeah, there you go. So it's going to just copy those envs to env.
Uh-oh,
Oops.
there we go.
Which
I
is
mean,
what,
we'll have to edit
yeah,
that. That's okay.
yeah, yeah. It's okay. You guys can take a look at it. So it's starting and yeah, and the cool things about this is it can run terminal commands and put it in the background task. So now you see one background task is running because it's probably spun up the LangGraph server. And now we're trying to look at the output.
So what's going on
So
here?
now, I mean, it's trying to just fix for any issues and see what the terminal shows and whatnot. So now you see it's creating the LangGraph dev and running it in the background mode.
What is LangGraph Dev?
Sorry, what?
What is LangGraph Dev?
Yeah, this is again the LangGraph specific. Now that we've built everything on LangGraph, LangGraph gives a way to spin up the LangGraph server and kind of test it out with the UI. So that's what it's doing here. Um, so you can do Control O to expand and see what's going on. It's got some issues which the agent will automatically figure it out.
How convenient.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
it's convenient with cursor too. But
Yeah,
that's another headache you had to deal with if you developed things on your own. You got to fix stuff,
true.
and the fix might not be that intuitive straight away.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Uh,
This is where your persistence and your motivation to keep going comes, because you have a lot of
Absolutely.
errors that
A
you
lot of
have to.
errors. Yeah. True. And not to say that even if you would have built it, it's not that you're gonna run without errors the first time itself, right? It's
Yeah, you're gonna get those errors. You have to just work it
yeah.
out and make sure those errors are something that you have to wrestle with. The
Yeah,
more
true.
you wrestle with these errors, the more stronger you become.
And you also would understand what's going on, right? So it's a good thing as well. If it were up to me, I would have used, this is for the testing purposes showing this, but if we wanted, we could really use a deep agent workflow from LangGraph that would, make our life much more easier. Okay, so I think it's working here. So it's basically testing out different endpoints. But if it does work, okay, yeah. So if it's working, now I would like to show the uh this time. Let me show. So
Can you zoom in a little bit?
yeah. So I have a bunch of other different traces, but you go to deployments and you go to LangSmith Studio, and it should be running.
So this is
Oh, it's
where,
using.
hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, what's going on here? You have the application running
Yes. Uh, say
for
420.
2024.
Hopefully this should work. Yeah, I can connect and boom, there you go. So you have a UI that just, okay. So clearly looking at this, it's not right. Okay. So because you see the
First of all,
nodes
so
that
we
connect.
just opened this in a portal that is provided
Yeah.
by LangSmith, and that's it's just
Yes.
a pip install. How did we get to
Yeah.
this
So
portal?
the way we got to this portal was through running creating the langgraph.json and running the langgraph.dev. So this is what langgraph gives us for our testing. So there are multiple
Okay.
commands. It's dev, up, build to create Docker containers and Docker images. But once we spin that up, we have an exposable endpoint, localhost running with this this endpoint, right? And locally, you can connect to that deployment the way I showed you once it's running.
Yeah.
So now, right off the bat, I can see some of the nodes are not connected at all, right? It's
Yes.
just independent entities, which is not right. This should
Because it's
be
supposed to
either
be a DAG or a graph in general,
yeah,
at least.
yeah, yeah. You see only start, plan queries, and approve queries are connected. You could ask the agent this. You could ask the agent this. So what I usually do is, so let me zoom in a bit, and you can take a screenshot, right? Say like this, and save open containing folder. I'm just going to copy the location of this and come to my terminal and say, hey, I just pasted it. For pasting, you do Control Shift V, and if it's an image, it'll pick up it's an image, right? So
I see.
yeah, and say, hey, I see these graphs. Only a few of them are connected. The rest of them are not connected. What is going on? Check out the image. So, and that's it. So now you are grounding the LLM visually as well. So it's going to read that image and kind of answer to that question for what we've asked. So I see the issue. The nodes that use command for dynamic routing aren't properly connected because LangGraph needs to know about all possible destinations. Let me fix the graph builder. So yeah, there you go. So this is pretty much how your life goes on if you want to use Claude Code, right? It's you find an issue, try to fix it,
Yeah.
again, move on, try to fix the next issue, move on, so on and so forth. So that way we get to the point of desired output. Yeah, there you go.
So it just fixed the connections, huh?
Yes. It created now server error. When you graph structure refresh the studio, you should see all the connected. So the start, plan queries, approve queries, execute, search, handle error. execute search. Research loop back plan queries or forward synthesize. Let me know, graph visualize it after refreshing. Okay. So yeah, I mean, is this right? Seemingly it is right, but I can't say anything until we kind of run it, right? So I don't know. I don't think we can get this working in this session unless you want to push it for the next however long. But probably in the next session we could kind of analyze this graph and get like a complete understanding of what's going on here. But really quickly, so you come to the starting point. The first user query that hits is the plan queries. From plan, we go to approve queries. If it's approved, we go to execute, which is correct. We go to execute, we check the analyze. Yeah, decide continuation. Should it continue or should it go do more research? Does that make sense? Right? You analyze the result and you're happy with it. And should it continue or should it do more research?
Mm-hmm.
So if not, it'll go do more research, analyze. It's kind of like a loop. Once it breaks out of the loop, it can take two paths. It can either take approval findings or synthesize, depending on what we have set it up as in the enum, so to speak. And then
Okay,
if
yeah.
it's yes, go ahead, synthesize. And once
So
it's
what is
synthesized, right?
synthesize?
Synthesize, I think it's going to get all this research, kind of like understand what we want to write and have another agent that's basically going to kick off writing the article, right? So, and then the writing the article, okay, it's gonna, the agent is going to write all the articles from all the things that we found here. So this is, you could think of synthesize as like a source of truth from where the agent is going to write the articles from. And the fact check. The fact check, it's an element in itself. So what we could basically do for fact check, I think it already does it, but I have to see the code to understand a bit more. So we could have it web search, and if not, we could have it search the web and kind of like for everything that is written, we could take some chunk size, search the article, search the web if it's correct. If not, rewrite, right? Fix claims. And that can happen like a cycle once it's done. Yeah. You see, okay. So what's happening is after fix claims, it's coming back to fact check, which is not actually right. So once we fix claims, we would actually go ahead and approve the article, right? So you see there are some discrepancies here. So it's not all absolutely correct. So once we fix the claims, we can go ahead and approve the article. Or maybe it is right. So maybe it checks the flags and then again, fix claims and fact check. Yeah, I think it's right. No, pardon me.
It goes back to do the fact checking again.
Yeah, again,
Okay.
right? Once it's fixed, what if the fixed claim was not right? So that's true. Okay. So I stand corrected. And once the fact check, we can come. So the out of the fact check is again, it's a conditional graph, a conditional edge, and we go to approve articles. If the article is not approved, either it'll go to write article again, and this entire thing repeats, right? So it's a complex graph structure. If we have approved it, so it's going to come here. Yeah, if there is any error, it's going to handle error. And once we handle error, it's coming down here and end it or complete it. Once we complete, it's going to come and end. Yeah.
So what's this approve article? Why can't it just complete it or end it? And what's the difference?
We asked for it to be, we asked it, right? Like we said, hey, I want you to approve at every stage or at every end stage or
okay.
yeah, so it's based on our requirements here. Nothing crazy is happening otherwise. So at the very end, if everything is good, you want to approve the article. This is again human in the loop. If we approve it, it's going to go ahead and complete it. Once completed, it's going to come to the end node. End is like the final stop the LLM, everything, right? If we don't approve it, we are going to go handle error. And from handle error, we can go ahead and end it.
Why is it not like handle error? Why isn't it supposed to go back to fixing itself?
True.
To checking?
True. We need to see what handle error does specifically. Maybe the handle error itself is going to fix all the things and it's going to come to an end. But again, this is where you have the basic skeleton. You have the scaffolding that you can work with. And I'll always like to visualize my graphs so that anything that you can see and visualize, you can understand better. Now I know exactly what issues are, if any, right? And you're right to ask, what is handle error? Shouldn't handle error come and do probably write article or fact check or something like that? You're right. So we could ask the agent that and keep going forward. So And yeah, that's in a nutshell how you could get to a starting point with LangGraph.
Got it. No, I think this is good. I think we shouldn't go back in the interest of time. Are we able to just run
Yeah.
a test?
I don't think so, but well, let's just give it a shot. Write
Yeah,
an
like
article about NVIDIA's SMI. I don't know. What do you want to ask, Rock?
yeah, just let's say why what is the root cause for World War I? We know the root cause for World War II. I mean, we know the root cause for World War I too, but that's an interesting.
So you see now I mean, we have something that's working for sure. So I reset it.
What's going on here?
So you see now key error. So it
Are you
did
able
the
to zoom
planning.
in? Because
Sorry, what?
are you able to zoom in? Maybe I can also cut the camera here. Hold on, let me cut the camera and put it on just the screen, and maybe you can zoom in a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I asked, what is the root cause for World War One? So now it says planning, current. So query, causes of World War One assassination, triggers, rationale,
That's
boom.
about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's planning its queries to do research. Now it came to the approval queries where it got messed up with the key error. And you could probably ask this agent. I'm sure this is just one of the things where you see the logs here in your ding. It can be easily fixable. I'm getting an error in the approval, says key error, check the logs. So, this is it's just the state management where it got it wrong. It's probably a simple fix. So it wants to see the output of the
Mm-hmm.
logs, and you can do Control O to expand everything. Yeah, here it is. Key error review mode. You can trace back and see what exactly happened. Well, it's not my problem. It's the agent's problem. So yeah, and I found it. The issue is that review mode isn't in the state when starting from studio. So I think I should have passed in the review mode, which is true because here the review
It's
mode.
you. That's an
Yeah, I
expected
have
input.
exactly. So it's
So I
my
see.
fault.
That's our mistake. Got it.
So continuation rationale is review mode. Yeah, review mode. And it's like I said, since it's an enum, I get to select it. So
Mm-hmm.
I could say autonomous
Yeah,
and
let's
boom,
give
go
it
from
full
there.
control. We just want to see the output.
Yeah.
And do we
And
have
you
to
see
choose
now,
the other parts as well? Let's fix that part too.
yeah, max iterations, current iteration, well, it says required. I need to know current phase. Current phase. Oh, I don't have to deal with this. Plan queries, sources, messages, should continue search, approval payload article, fact check results. Yeah. So you know what? I don't want to deal with this. Probably first. I'm not going to enter that as well because we told we want 5 to 7. Actually, we kept it to 7. The only thing was review mode was given to be given by the user. Yeah, and you also saw what happened, right? So now what happened was previously, whatever working with, the Claude code ran out of the context. So what happened was it said,
Oh,
hey,
I
you
didn't
know
see
what? You
that.
ran out. Yeah, it did. It did happen. I should have been a bit
Yeah,
more.
that would be nice. Can we go back and see what
Yeah.
happened?
Well, I can't when it's running now. I don't want to do it. But
Okay.
actually, I'll tell you what would have happened or what actually happened is so I mean, we had the previous state and chat history and everything, right? Since it ran out of memory, what happened was, hold on, sorry. My Mac is running out of charge. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so since it ran out of context, what happened was uh, it after the context got over, the Claude automatically kicked in compacting. It's called compacting conversations, which is for auto compact, where
Mm.
the way they built it is they kind of like summarize everything that happened in a nutshell and tell where we left off and what we need to do and all the files that was referenced before and that we were working with, so that when the new state or the new thread, when the LLM runs, it kind of knows what's happening and it goes from there.
So it compresses the stuff and gives what is necessary?
Yeah, exactly. It only gives all the things that's necessary, but it's quite comprehensive. I actually took the
Okay.
time to read the
The context?
compaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good the way they summarize everything. So
Interesting.
Yeah, so now it's updating everything. State fact check. Yeah, you see state fact check iteration one. So it's just kind of like trying to say, hey, okay, if you don't pass anything, probably autonomous should be the default. And I think it's also fixing a few other things. Yeah, see with defaults. So let me update the to-dos and so, and the cool thing about LangGraph is that you see where you left off. You can just say uh, a view state or rerun from here. Since everything is just a state, and that's how the memory is managed, you could mess around however you want. You could do time travel, you could do fast forward, you could do so many things. Said failed to fetch. Now let it run the server.
So what did we do here?
Yeah, we updated it and now we're restarting the LangGraph server. So what did we do is that, I had to pass in the approval, right? Review mode, correct?
Yes.
I had
Yes.
not passed in. So what it does now is even if I did not pass in, it has set a default value for it, probably autonomous or something. And
Hmm.
every other place where such instances where the value was required, but if the user did not pass, it has set a default value for it. See, all direct state key access like state key have been replaced with safe access using state.get
I
or
see.
default value. Yeah, review mode autonomous is the default, and 7 current iteration 0, boom. So that
Okay,
now that
nice.
you don't run into those kind
Do you
of
want to
issues
start
at
again
least.
fresh? Let's start again fresh.
Yeah, I can, yeah, start again fresh. I can just do rerun from here.
Okay.
So it's just going to take that and then, yeah, it's just going to create a fork and it's just going to rerun from there. So since I've zoomed in, it's like not doing the best job at kind of like,
Display. That's all right.
yeah. So another one. Uh, blocking error.
So we got this new error now.
Covered any blocking code with async. Oh, this has got to do with async await. Probably it has used somewhere async or something and is not used the await.
Wait.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably that or somewhere. And if you're using async await, we have to also for development allow with the run blocking. It's just the LangGraph stuff. Yeah,
I don't know that
and
it
that's about.
started off with the allow blocking. LangGraph dep.
No, it should. Yeah, it should. It depends. Oh yeah, so it's Stavely search. Asynchronous is a call blocking inside async function. So there you go. And we could try again. Um, okay. And then again, we can go from here, rerun from here. So that way, so plan queries is basically from this question, what more can we get from? So recursion maximum, recursion depth reach, we're executing. Yeah, like
Huh.
you just keep testing it out. And that's why,
Python. Yeah.
I like to use deep agent. I probably should have gone with deep agent.
But
It's
that's
okay.
okay because we need to get, like,
Yeah.
the objective here is to learn about Claude and maybe learn a little bit about LangGraph as well.
Yeah.
And we are doing that.
So
That's fine.
yeah. I mean, yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. So now recursion error maximum depth is so what happens is, LangChain comes with or LangGraph comes with how many times should LLM keep making calls to a specific thing until it runs out of the limit. Because let's say there is a ever growing function. When you make a call, it gives you new results, right? For instance, the web search. So when you keep doing web search, when should you stop that web search? Probably it reached the maximum depth of 25. So by default, there's 25. And so that is what might have happened. But I think I'm wrong. The recursion is no SSL. But okay, we'll see about that. Maybe the LLM tried to execute and never got a response back, and that's why it messed up.
Yeah, I think it'll
And you
be.
see,
Could you when you do this debugging, I think it'll be helpful for the viewers to also understand what exactly you're doing when you do the debugging. In other words, do you mind slowing down the debugging so when you do things, you can also explain for the viewers? That way they have an idea what to do when they are debugging.
Yeah, sure. So the issue was the dash dash allow blocking flag allows synchronous I operations, which is fine for development, but for production, you would use BG job isolated to true. Yeah, this is fine. So this is just one of the ways LangGraph has implemented it, is that we cannot be trying to use any blocking operations in an asynchronous definition of a function, which is fine. It's not really a big deal. We just have to improvise. So that's the issue. That's what was the issue. So hopefully that's the issue, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the same thing again. Recursion maximum recursion depth exceeded. So that's what. So when you go to max assistant and recursion is 25, so I can say 75. So okay, what's happening is, like I said, execute search is probably taking a lot of steps to come to the output. So we're trying to execute the same call again and again to get more queries, right? So we have like multiple queries, we get
We only
responses,
have
get more
4, the way I see it, or there's more.
yeah, but the 4 could be not necessarily just 4 actions being taken,
Okay.
right? It does not necessarily mean just because there's 4 queries, it's just 4 action being taken, because every query might return an output, and that query could in turn result in a new web search, things of that nature, right? So
Right.
I mean, that's just me speculating. We want to get to the bottom of this. Can you explain what is going on and get to the bottom of this issue? Also, tell me the issue that is showing up in the logs. So there's 2 ways to fix it. One is kind of like try to block or reduce the recursion calls or increase the recursion limit. Calls itself recursively. This is to prevent iterate infinite loops. So that is why they've kind of done this. Not sure you can see, but yeah. So first, let's not change this. Let's try and fix the issues in the code, if any.
Yeah. I
Let's
think
see.
that
So
recursion issue
yeah, error
is worth
encountered in
fixing.
graph recursion. Yeah, so this is typical line graph, typical of line graph. But you can, I mean, it's not my problem. So yeah, see here, recursion limit maximum, previous line SSL context. So it's not actually the issue with the code. It's probably the output of the research is not coming out properly, and it tries again and
And
again and
does it
again.
have to do anything with the SSL certification?
It's probably with the tably. It's kind of messing up, I think.
Okay.
It's the tably. So I think what's happening here is it's making a call to tably, which is the web search tool,
Yeah.
and it's not yielding anything, and thus it's trying again, not yielding anything, and that happens 25 times, and it runs out of recursion.
Maybe is the
Yeah.
API key not right or something like that?
I don't know. That's why it's trying to get to the bottom of this. 1 second.
So does it do? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, okay. So the problem was recursion error in SSL module making HTTPS requests. Yeah, synchronous tably uses request library internally where request tries to establish SSL HTTP connections.
Yep.
Yeah, this is due to compare LangGraph for sync runtime and loop management. Yeah. So hopefully now it should use it. I think it's using HTTPX sync instead of request. Okay, cool. So let's see.
So yeah, we just went from it using HTTPS to HTTPX in order to mitigate the recursion because it was using the request module. It should have been using the async version.
Yeah, absolutely. So boom, now it got it. Boom, we got the sources. You have everything here. It's going ahead with the next steps. I can do a bit.
Yeah, let me
So
take out
yeah.
the picture and just focus on your screen.
So we have the query and the rational, execute a true, long-term cause, okay, scholars, and with the URL, okay, ripple effect. And honestly, we could build an internal Tably itself. It's not a big deal, but it's just easier to use the API.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
could
all of
use,
these, a lot of these tools can be built, especially now with Claude Code,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So now synthesize, you see what you said. What synthesize does is basically saying what we do. The assassination that ignited World War, a wrong turn that changed history, how assassination of Archduke France, whatever,
For the,
sprinkle World War One.
yeah.
So
Okay, so
hook
this is,
strategy.
okay. It's like giving you the strategy. Open with, go ahead. I just want to read it for a second. Open,
Open with dramatic
I meant to say go
tiny.
up. I don't know why I said go ahead. That's confusing. That's good. Open with the dramatic, simple wrong turn. Sarajevo. Yep, that's what I was expecting. This is good. But I see EM dashes. I guess that's partly okay with the strategy. The
Yeah.
synthesis. Okay. And then this is what it's going to talk about. All right.
Content, the cause, key points, conclusion, and okay. So now here's where the interrupt has reached, where we have to for approval findings. Um, so this is the point where it has come, it has done its research, and we are kind of saying, okay, here's a summary. This is what happened. This is what it looks like. Are you good with this? Are you not? So I want to know what is the approval value that we have to give in order to continue. Because if I just say resume, I hope that should work, but I gotta just make sure. So I'm just gonna ask the agent that itself. So hey, I've reached this point. What should I give here? Hey, I've reached the approval point. Should I just click on resume or should I give any other specific value here? So the reason is here you could say, here you could say, you know what, update, probably update the content on June 28, 1914, the specific thing, right? You could
Yeah.
say that and it kind of goes ahead and does that, but I don't know. So let's see what the way it is set up. Let's see what the agent says. The profile no accepts the JSON object. See, that's what to approve, to continue, approve, true. The other options continue to search true. Notes for now, just approve true.
See, nice.
So yeah. So approve true. I just want to make sure syntax are unexpected, non-widespread after JSON. Let's see if this is right. Yes.
So what happened here?
So what happened here was we came to synthesize, and once
Right.
synthesize is done, we're at a point where we can go ahead and finalize the article, right? We can go ahead and write the article. So
Correct.
before writing the article, you're asking, hey, are you good with this? Can I go ahead with this? And things of that
Mm.
nature. So
And
that's what
it's
happened
giving
here.
me what exactly is it giving me with the interrupt?
Interrupt is it's asking, please review the research findings before article generation. That's literally what it's asking. I've done all this research. Are you okay with this?
Hmm.
Not sure why it's current phase writing.
I guess it's taking everything in and generating.
Yeah,
But
it
it's kind of frozen too, right?
is writing. So let me just say resume. Approval findings 2 times. Okay. I mean, so wait, let's understand what's going on here. Approval findings. It's coming to synthesize. Hold on. It's at approval queries, if I'm not wrong. So provide value. Okay. I can ask the interrupt. Hey, look, I gave, but it is asking the same thing multiple times. What's going on? So I think maybe we have a loop that's coming back to
Yeah, asking again and
uh,
again.
yeah, again and again. So that's where we gotta see what we need to do. Okay, yeah. Plan queries can only receive one value per step. That's what we're passing the wrong way. This is exactly why I asked the LLM. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing. So now what happened was it is just a issue with the implementation in the backend. It's got too many edges going from one node. And if multiple edges goes from one node, it assumes to have them execute parallelly. That's how LangGraph works. If from one node, and if we don't define any condition, I think the condition may not be right here. Well, we'll see about that.
Well, I mean, it's probably not a truly well done DAG. That's another reason.
Yeah,
Supposedly,
that's true. That's true. That's absolutely true. Well, this is not good either.
so for those who are looking at it, they can take screenshots and paste that image into Claude Code.
Yeah,
They can, I mean, the goal here is not to completely fix everything entirely, but to
yeah,
sort of give them a flavor, give the audience a flavor for what they can do, because this is realistic. This can continuously happen, and they've got to be able to handle this particular occurrence, not this particular occurrence, but handle this particular behavior of things not going their way. And this is where
yeah, absolutely.
patience and motivation and all that kind of stuff comes to play, because your alternative is to give up and say this is useless, or to try
I'll
and make it work
try.
manually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
try it
sure,
on your own.
manually. I mean, if you're good at it manually, go for it. It takes
Yeah,
probably some time and learning. But if
yeah,
you don't want to do any of that, then we just gotta be patiently testing and pushing forward, because
yeah.
that's all we got right now. We just gotta keep moving forward and not stop.
Yeah, I figured I thought about this long time ago. But in LangGraph, when you are using a command, and when you're doing the function definition, at the as a return, you need to give the command with what nodes it goes to. If it's a conditional node, it needs to have literal node A or node B. And that's
Got it.
how LangGraph actually kind of constructs the graph during runtime. So since that wasn't there, and that's why it was all those edges were floating. I should
Hmm.
have. I mean, I thought about it, but I thought since we had the docs, we had it nailed down. But hey, you know what? This is a good thing because even with all the docs we had, we are still not accurate. So this goes to showing. I mean, using docs is imperative.
Minimum table stakes, it's,
Yeah,
and then you still got
yeah,
to put your effort in. Or at least
yeah.
though, as it stands now, we need manual effort to get this going.
True, true. So now if I click on resume, let's see what's going to happen. And I don't have to refresh the page because since the server already refreshed itself, so everything is threaded. It just resumed from the same
What
point.
do you exactly mean in this case, threaded?
See here, there's a thread ID, right?
Uh-huh.
For every run, there's a thread ID, and uh each each task or each question is persistent only to that thread ID. So in
Huh.
ChatGPT, you say new chat, and
Yes.
in the background, what's effectively happening is it creates a new thread ID, and you're just continuing the conversation. That's it. And if you wanted, you could kind of transfer the user personal data from one thread to another thread. For instance, here I say I love about history and World War, and probably in the next thread, if I ask what do I like, it could probably No, you can definitely do that. So you can kind of like transition that information from one thread to another for the same user ID, if you will. Okay, so it is still asking me to, so I can say this. It is still asking me this.
So you said we don't really need to refresh it because it maintains a live status all the time. Like it's a auto refresh.
Yeah, because in the background where we're killing the
Oh, okay. So you're killing
server,
the dev environment. Okay.
and whatever is up to that point, it'll just resume from there. So let's see. Let me try to run this.
It's not up yet, is it?
No, it's active.
I thought it says thinking and needs to do stuff, no?
Not really. So you say you must completely lock show palette. Okay. So maybe what I can do is just all right, you know what? It says, hey, you know what, create a new thread because that thread was messy. So let me go ahead and run it. Let's see.
This is what you mentioned, compacting conversation.
Oh yeah. See, we ran out of the context. And if you want to check your context, you can do /context and that will visualize, but not now because it's actively compacting. Once it's done, it'll.
Can I run this on a different tab and check? Or no?
You could run it, but I mean, that's just extra work. You can just wait it until this is done. You could run it, but the thing is, you just have to resume back from where you left off. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind. So right now the agent is doing its stuff.
Yeah, we hear the mouse sound, actually.
I will try not to make too much noise. Okay, it's working correctly. Sequential. You saw the new thread and the old thread. It was corrupted. That's cool. So we shall see. See here, it's automatically saying, should I continue research? Because is it good enough? Yeah, you should continue research. Okay, good. I'll go ahead and continue my research. Okay, cool. So more information. What should I search for? So that's why I create more planned queries. Since we said it needs to be comprehensive, right? In that case scenario, that's why it's probably doing a bit more. And we have the current iteration. So we said 5 to 6 or 7 times. So it's going to go ahead and do it 7 times.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably going to run out of context. So LangGraph has a way to, to manage context. It's called as middlewares. And that is also the reason why I'd love to use the deep agent, because the deep agent comes installed or, built with all those slick optimizations.
Integrations.
Just like, yeah. So now again, it has returned a bit.
So this is the synthesis after what, 5th step now? 5th iteration?
6th, I think. 6th one, I guess. Now it's going ahead and going to write the article. Now, boom. It's got all the thing that it needs. Now it's writing the article.
This is the first time it's doing here, correct?
Yes.
We had not come to this step before, right?
No, we had it, yes.
Okay.
Beyond the assassination, how Europe's powder keg exploded. Oh wow, this is a learning experience for me too. I didn't know much about World War One. I mean, I had learned, but I've forgotten. So this is more detailed.
Well, I mean, this was the perfect precursor for World War II. You got folks who actually went through a lot to never have this happen. It turns out there was another occurrence which sourced from this. So it's good to
Right,
see how you feel about the blog.
right, and it's pretty detailed, if you will.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's called the Treaty of Versailles. That's when this was signed
Mm-hmm.
after this war, if I recall correctly. So
Yeah.
now
Now it's
fact
going
checking.
ahead in fact checking. Yes,
Nice. So how does the fact checking exactly work?
you
Break
can
it down
ask that to
sentence by
the.
sentence, or what does it work?
You can. Can you now tell me how exactly the fact checking works? Well, it's checking out the bash command. It should be fine. The graph structure now working properly. It's seeing more. That's fine. Check the file status. Okay, let me explain how the fact checking works by looking at this implementation. Now it says by looking at this implementation because you see we have already compacted the conversation twice. So it's not the same conversation history we had when we first implemented it, right? So that is exactly why. See, now
Wouldn't
it's
it
say, okay,
wouldn't it grep
JSON
like how
verified.
cursor does?
Yep, it is grepping. So when it says reading internally search, that's what it's doing here.
Okay, okay.
Searching for cut patterns. Okay, so how the fact check works. It's a two-node loop that verifies every claim in the article against the research findings. Why read that? You see how this is working. So the fact check comes in, is verified true, supporting source, boom. Confidence 0.9, issue null. So you see, for every claim, it's kind of like the claim is fully verified by research findings, is explicit supporting details. For it's breaking down everything into chunks, and for each chunk, it's trying to verify.
Nice.
Verifying, it's giving the
The source
source.
of truth. Okay.
So
This
that's
is
what I said.
good.
So extract claims. So uses LM to identify the factual claims in the article, extract statements with statistics, dates, numbers, attributions, cause and effect, opinions. See, now here it says we skipped opinions, general observation, and rhetorical statements. This is what we actually asked for, right? I mean, you had asked for. For each extracted claim, checks against research findings collected during research phase, original source, first 500, LLM determines is verified supporting. Probably what we could do is we could add another web search here, but the fact of the matter is we got all this initial source of data from the web search itself. So it's kind of redundant, but if you wanted to super optimize and be very clear. So yeah, this is a time-consuming process. But however, if we are running, what we could do here is we could run batch operations. We could run, because it's pretty much doing the same thing, just the
Same
data is
thing.
changing, right?
Yeah, you can just
Yeah. So
parallelize
yeah,
this.
you could run them in parallel, and LangGraph does support it.
Nice.
See now, it said there's one unverified claim. Principal found himself just 5 feet from his target. So now it's fixing that claim.
Nice.
Flicks claim article node correction. When unverified claims are found, this node rewrites the article, remove the claims entirely if not essential, soften language, reportedly some sources suggest. Rewrites only, hedging after fixing the loop returns for. So another thing what we could optimize is that since we've already fact checked most of this, it'll be redundant or not necessary and time consuming and waste of tokens to run the entire fact checking again, right? So you could probably just fact check on the last thing that was a wrong claim, that was
Yeah,
misclaimed
I
or
think
misfit.
if it's just one claim, sure, but if it's like multiple claims,
Yeah, I mean, if it's multiple claims, we can just fact check those claims that were just misfit
yeah,
or misclaimed.
mhm. I
We could do
guess
that
if
as
it's
well.
not necessarily supported, we dump it, we just leave it. Yeah, those are some
Yeah,
optimizations we could certainly do.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so it's doing iteration 1 in order to ensure Yeah, this
Yeah,
is like heavy token heavy, right? It's like a
token
lot of
heavy. Yeah,
tokens wastage.
token heavy, and I don't know how much token has been used in my thing, but I mean, even though it seems token heavy, I don't think it's going to be too much.
Yeah.
Damn, I didn't enable tracing. I should have enabled tracing. That way, it'll show how much was used and whatnot.
Yeah, maybe we
But I
can do
can
it
go.
next time. Or is it
Yeah, we can probably.
worthy of doing it now? Because we are at 2 hour 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's too long. So I'll probably keep it next time.
Yeah, we can like think about further topics from here and
Yeah.
incorporate those topics in the next subsequent sessions.
Yeah, we can optimize this application itself.
Yeah, that could
Uh,
be another session separately.
yeah, and then finally get to a working product where people can actually use it and open source this project, if you will.
Yeah, that sounds good. We should do that.
I mean, not that this already doesn't exist, and the ultimate fact checker we have Perplexity, but it's cool to learn and test the waters.
Exactly. The intent really here is to get yourself comfortable doing something like this with Claude and
Yeah,
LangChain because both of them are very powerful tools. If
yeah,
you are an engineer, you should be able to do this. Like you don't have to
absolutely.
be a special kind to be able to do this,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
that's one of the
That's what right off the
motivations to
bat.
be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right off the bat, easiest low hanging fruit optimization is to do this, use the send API. I
Yeah.
mean, in the line graph and have this done in parallel. And once that's done, we could just optimize. If it's already verified to true, let's not kind of like do the verification again. Although I would argue that here the context also matters, right? So we cannot just set is context dependent. Maybe not in this because it's a straightforward fact check. Maybe somewhere where this is context heavy in if one is true or one is false, the other is also likely to be false or something, right? You can't. Okay, current phase approved article, it's done.
Yeah.
Here's
So we
facts
have it.
check. Yeah, we have it. So
I love
everything
it.
is fact checked. And here's the final article that you have. And maybe what I can do is I should be able to copy this. Oh boy. Where did it go? Fact check results. Yeah, and all of this we can kind of like completed, approval, fact check, cool. I don't know. I just don't like too claustro. I don't like it if it's too cluttered.
Do you want to zoom your screen in?
Yeah. Yeah, here we go. Maybe we can ask the agent to write it in an MD format. That way we can just have it ready for the MD.
No, it's good. I think we're good here.
I
I
mean,
think
what I
we
mean
got
by that is the it'll be bold here where
yeah,
necessary to look.
hashtag, yeah, headings, right? Appropriate headings
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, those are things
And I think it's
motivate an
already
individual can.
MD. Yeah, I think let's read it from here only because it is MD because the way I copied it is not right. Because you see here it's bold, so it is written in MD itself. So
Yeah, a
this thing is
motivated
rendering.
individual can figure it out. That's not a problem. But I think
Yeah.
this is good. We should say this is a win for us because we learned
Yeah.
what Claude Code is. I mean, at least I and the audience learned what Claude Code is.
Hey,
And
I'm learning every day too.
yeah. And, what can be done here as you sort of use AI and agentic ways to do things. Additionally, you learned what LangChain is and what you could do with LangChain LangGraph. And then we looked at LangGraph Dev. And most importantly, we went through the debugging process of how somebody can take this sort of debugging mechanism. In this case, maybe the debugging was relatively easy. I'm sure there are cases where you really got to push through it. That's when you go out and push through it, get it done. That way you have what is needed and you deliver what you want from all these expeditions that you can accomplish. So my ask for the audience really is, what would you like to see next? Rajat, you want to actually explain what we didn't cover here and what, how we can, what other topics can we discuss here?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface, if you will. So we have a lot of things that we didn't cover. Like I said, the hooks, specific. This is me talking specific to Claude Code. The hooks, the plugins, the skills, majorly. And when I started out with Claude Code, I also did this neat trick where I could run multiple agents, in parallel, targeting the same code base. It's a good thing, but I mean, it's good to learn. I wouldn't always use it, but if you wanted something done super quick, that's some cool, slick trick to know. And then coming to LangGraph, coming to LangGraph, you know how we implemented web search using Tavli, right? Not necessarily you need to do that because most of these model providers already have their inbuilt tools. Like for instance, Claude has its own inbuilt web search tool or web fetch tool, wherein you just pass in an URL. It is smart enough to understand that, hey, this is a URL, I need to go ahead and fetch it. And that is handled natively by Claude itself. You just have to update some parameters and you could achieve that through LangGraph, the way we implement it. Some of the things so that you don't have to spend extra API credits on Tavli or
Twiley.
any other web
Yeah.
search. So those things and just trying to build more complex applications and you find your groove and you just keep building every day. I think that's pretty much all there is to cover. I mean, you can always learn more on LangChain, LangGraph, and how you could keep implementing more stuff and how you
And we'd
could
like to
work
cover
with
those topics that you just mentioned, right? The webhooks
yeah,
and other
the
aspects.
the hooks,
Oh,
the
sorry, the
skills, the
hooks.
plugins. Absolutely, I'd love to go over that. It's really useful. It's really useful, especially when you are working with. I mean, if you're a software
Yeah,
dev and you have some different branching logics, and maybe you want to do some code reviews, PR, whatever, those things will really help out. So yeah, definitely, I think you guys should stick around to learn more.
cool. Yeah, we'll produce such episodes, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. And where can they find you, Rajat? Can
Well,
they? I'm gonna link to your Twitter, but where else can what do you got? Maybe I'll ask two questions. What is one advice you want to impart to maybe beginners and possibly who are even advanced engineers? Because this is a different topic. They probably have been doing things manually. Beginners have no technical prowess. Well, what advice do you have for these two cohorts of people? And then I have another question that I'll wait to ask.
yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I'll talk about the beginners. For beginners itself, what I would like to kind of say is I know it's fancy to go ahead and build applications, just Claude code and, use cursor and things of that nature. But I mean, everybody can do that at this point in time. So I think you're going to set yourself apart when you actually understand, if not everything, at least most of the things that if you did not know, you're going to go in the wrong path, which we don't really want, right? So the idea is not to just jump into Cloud Code and just build apps. The idea is jump into Cloud Code, learn, build apps, fail, and learn. So the point is not building only, it's to learn more. So that when you want to actually build something let's say you want to scale an application, right? You need to understand how you could do that, how you could build different microservices, how you can deploy it on different providers like AWS or GCP. And essentially, if you were to want to make what we built a scalable application, how could we do that? So always think in terms of scaling things, not because you want to scale, but also it's simply because you're learning a whole lot. This is a mistake I did, and that's why I want to say this, because starting out in the in the startup field, where I kind of built so much heavy LangChain, LangGraph heavy application with almost no sense of scalability in mind, and that really got me. It was like 10 steps forward and 100 steps back. So that's really the bad place to be, and that's when I realized, you know what? Anything that I'm going to build, I want to build with scalability in mind, so that at any point we decide to go public or we decide to launch it to folks, right? We can easily scale it and we don't have any issues there. And as far as the pros, professionals, I don't know. I think we should be just open to testing out different things and not let ourselves get in our own ways. Because when all these things came out, I was like, it can't be that great. It can't be that good. And when people started trying out, and I was coerced into it, and I was very rigid in the sense of testing new things because I thought I was better. But honestly, it's not the case. You could always learn more, and it's just the efficiency at what you could get done. It just becomes 10x. And so, professionals, I think we have to be open to testing out new tools, learning more from it, and not be, uh, I don't want to say afraid, but not be let down that so many things are coming. And instead, we have to use this to our advantage in the sense of the things that we could be building.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's,
when
yeah.
sorry, when a world-class engineer like Andre Karapati says, I've never felt, I guess for the lack of words, I've never felt this weak in terms of like coding abilities, right? There was a recent tweet. Let me read what he said. He basically said that he feels not so good being in this position. I'm trying to find
Yeah, I just saw some, Andre's post as well.
what I'm trying to find out what he exactly said. So that way I
Yeah.
don't say wrong things.
Oh, look at that. There's one more Twitter, it says from Andre Karpati. It says, I was inspired by this so much I wanted to see Claude code. Can get into my Lutron home automation system. Yeah, it's just cool to see amazing guys like Andre keep testing out and playing around.
Yeah. Where is it?
I think this is
Okay,
what
there it
you're,
is. I found it. Are you looking at the same thing? Where it says,
yeah.
yes, this is what I was trying to say. I've never felt
Yeah.
this much behind as a programmer. I mean, think about this. This guy
Yeah.
is one of those individuals who was able to like have fun writing backprop and writing a blockchain. What did he do? Something about Bitcoin experimentation over the weekend, like building some sort of like a consensus, sort of copying Bitcoin protocol, and he was able to write that weekend. And he's obviously one of the co-founder of OpenAI, and also a former director of autopilot, right, at Tesla. It's amazing what people are saying here. And we really have to take this seriously. The profession is being dramatically refactored as bits contributed by programmers are increasingly sparse and between. I have a sense that I could be 10x more powerful if I just properly string together what has become available over the last year, and a failure to claim the boost feels decidedly like skill issue. He's saying, well, if he says he can get 10x, maybe we could also get 10x. We can also get to 10x if we are able to put this all together and see what he's talking about. Context, memory, modes, permissions, tools, plugins, skills, hooks, MCP, LSP, slash commands, workflows, IDE integrations. So, well, there's a lot of exciting stuff ahead of us. So let's just dive in and we'll see where we go with this. Worst case scenario, we just know how to burn some tokens, which is not so good, but we burn some tokens. All right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in, and we look forward to subsequent episodes. Last question, Rajat. Where can they find you if they have, interesting conversations that they want to talk about? And do you also just quickly just mention your website, because you already mentioned what you're doing. You
Yeah.
just want to mention your website.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm highly active on Twitter, or X as we call it. So, well, yeah, I think, Rock, you can add my profile.
Thank you very much for showing this, and I look forward to learning.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's great. And looking forward to having more sessions.
Thank you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.